I am calling to order the City of Panama City Commission meeting for September 9th at 8 a.m. Opening prayer is by Dr. John Haley, Senior Pastor of New Covenant Church of God in Christ, followed by a Pledge of Allegiance of the flag by Chief Master Sergeant Sanchez. Please stand.
Bless you. Let us pray this morning. Lord, thank you. Thank you, God, for everything you've done individually, what you've done collectively. Thank you for past, thank you for present, and thank you for future blessings that you have bestowed upon each one of us. Your infallible word commands us to be thankful and to give you praise. Yes, your word declares that everyone who hath breath should praise you. Yes, in some way, some shape, and in some form, everyone should acknowledge your goodness and consequently praise you, Lord. Therefore, we regard not the location nor the setting, nor will we allow the climate, whether tense or relaxed, to stymie, to hinder, or to obstruct our praise of you. Thank you, Lord. For we understand that according to Psalms 24:1, the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, the world and they that dwell therein. That speaks of us, each one of us, who you created in your image, and in your image created you us. You created us for good works. You created us for good deeds. You created us to be helpers one to another. Not only helpers, but a blessing in word and in deed. Bless these your servants, whom you have exalted to be a blessing. For we know that promotion cometh not from the east nor the west, but promotion cometh from the Lord. You putteth up one, you taketh down another. Grant these whom you have put up, whom you have placed in these significant, important, and lofty positions. Positions of city manager, positions of mayor, positions of city commissioner. Grant them the wisdom from above. Grant them the wisdom of Solomon to do what is right in your eyesight. Not my eyesight, not their constituents, not man's eyesight, but your eyesight. Grant them a do-right spirit, a spirit that will make them iconic figures of goodness, statues of righteousness in this wonderful city we live in, founded in 1909. Lead us, God. Guide us all, Lord, in the path of righteousness for your name's sake. And in Jesus Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Please face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please call the roll.
Mayor Branch.
Here.
Commissioner Granger.
Present.
Commissioner Street.
Here.
Commissioner Hughes.
Here.
Commissioner Lucas.
Present.
Mayor, you have quorum.
You've received the meeting minutes from August 26th. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second. First and second, please call the roll.
Commissioner Granger.
Yes.
Commissioner Street.
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes.
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas.
Yes.
Mayor Branch.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Any additions, deletions, or modifications to the agenda in front of you?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, staff has two. First off, item 6E as in Edward under public hearings. Would like to move that to the end of the city manager section to become item 13G as in golf, and for it to only be a discussion. Again, item 6E moved to city manager section. Last item 13G for discussion purposes only. And then the second one would be to move item 9I as in Ida off of consent, and for it to become item 11B, second item under the city attorney. That would be, again, item 9I as in Ida, now 11B under city attorney. Those are the two from staff, Mr. Mayor.
I'd like to add a mayor's report or discussion where appropriate in the agenda. Where would that be?
I'm sorry, what did you say, Mr. Mayor?
I'd like to add a mayor's discussion point.
It would probably come at the very beginning of the commissioner's reports. That's typically where we would put a mayor's report.
Perfect. Do I have a motion to, any other changes or additions or deletions from the commission?
So that would be 10A.
Yeah, it would be the new 10A. Is there a subject?
Just discussion, flow of policy.
I motion that we change item 6 Echo to 13 Golf, change item 9 India to 11 Bravo, and add 10 Alpha as a mayor's report, and change 10 Alpha to 10 Bravo, 10 Bravo to 10 Charlie.
Do you have a second?
Second that.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Granger?
Yes.
Commissioner Street?
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes?
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas?
Yes.
Mayor Branch?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
That's all from staff, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, so no community announcements.
Yep, nope. All right, no, sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't know if elected officials had any more.
No.
Okay, good. All right, moving into community announcements. There are 2 upcoming budget hearings this month for the fiscal year 2026 budget. The first hearing will occur later today at 5:01 p.m. right here at the Bay County Government Center. The second and final hearing will be on Tuesday, September 23rd, same time and place. Join us at the Macedonia Missionary Baptist Church on Saturday, September 13th at 12 p.m. to celebrate the rich history of the Glenwood Business District. Our Parks, Culture, and Recreation team will unveil 6 new historical markers honoring iconic Black-owned businesses and community landmarks that helped shape Glenwood's identity. This free, community-centered celebration highlights the neighborhood's resilience, entrepreneurial spirit, and lasting legacy. Looking ahead to October, the Panama City Fire Department will host their annual open house at Fire Station Number 2 on October 3rd from 5 to 9 p.m. And the Police Department will participate in the National Night Out on October 7th at Gulf Coast State College from 5 to 8 p.m. And the City of Panama City is excited to announce this year's Downtown Christmas Parade theme, Under the Christmas Tree, happening Saturday, December 6th. Registration is now open on our city website. Sign up today to join in the fun with festive floats, sparkling lights, and holiday magic. All right, moving into public hearings. Item number 6A is consideration of approval of the final assessment resolution for fire services number 2025-0909.1 and conducting the public hearing. As background information, the commission adopted ordinance number 3225 on June 25th of 2024, which requires annual adoption of the final assessment resolution for fire services number 2025-0909.1. Prior to adoption, the resolution requires having a public hearing to hear comments and objections of all interested parties. A notice was mailed to each individual property owner, requiring notice on or before August 19th of 2025. There were 2,213 new properties that required notice this year due to either a new annexation. I'm sorry, there is an error in this. I cannot read that. There's numbers typed on, does anybody read that? Brandy, I don't know if y'all can. Okay,
Something property.
okay, yes. I don't know if mine's the only one messed up, I apologize. A new annexation or change in the use of property. The preliminary rates are estimated that fire service assessments would total, I think that's the number that's somehow messed up. So I want to be able to read that number. $5.7 million. So, all right, the following properties were not assessed: government properties, agricultural lands, properties receiving additional seniors exemptions, and properties receiving the veterans exemption. The following properties received a 50% exemption: institutional property, which is wholly exempt from, and ad valorem taxation and homestead exempt property. The commission may reduce the assessment rates at this hearing. However, any reduction is required to be supplemented by any legally available funds not derived from the fire service assessments. Staff recommends the City Commission conduct the public hearing and adopt the final assessment resolution for fire services number 2025-0909.1. Mr. Mayor?
Yes, this is a public hearing. If you wish to speak on item 6A, please come to the podium. Yes, sir. Good morning. Good morning.
Morning. Derek Thomas, 1100 West 10th Street. This fire assessment is, I don't think going to be able to go away in the future unless you start acting a little bit more fiscally responsibly with the money that you bring in. I noticed last year on June 25th, the same day the marina was, all the revenue from the marina was going to be given away for an undisclosed period of time, which I'm still waiting on you to to have this public meeting that we could discuss that. That you gave away $10.23 million for the hurricane after Hurricane Michael to businesses here. There were 30 families. It constituted about 54 properties, most of them in the downtown area where most of the money from the Hurricane Michael rebuild was being spent. 10.23 million, and the only thing that I could see in that would actually serve the public is the $175,000 for the church to redo their parking lot, but they allowed the public to use that parking lot when they weren't using it. So that's a benefit to the city. But the other 30 families that received over $10 million received it to invest in their businesses. Well, the entire money to rebuild the entire city didn't go to rebuild the entire city. It only went to rebuild the downtown and Panama City North and the St. Andrews. It wasn't spread out throughout the entire city. So now you have a hole. We have to come up with that money to finish the projects you already started and to rebuild all the other stuff around the city. How are you going to do that?
Are you talking about the HRP program?
Well, I don't know what
It sounds like it, Mr. Mayor.
That's
on June 25th, but that.
And we haven't received any money. They handle the construction and all the stuff. We don't.
And some of it went out at the same time.
Completely wrong.
At the same time the marina was being discussed.
It's not city money. We didn't give anyone any money. Completely wrong.
Okay, well, moving forward, if you're so targeted on finishing the downtown and spending money in St. Andrews, what about the rest of the city? How are we ever going to come up with the money to do that unless you put a limit on the amount of money you're spending to help specific areas and have a priority list of what you need to get done to get the roads working for the entire city, to get, the sidewalks cleared for the entire city? If you don't make a plan to get the stuff you need done finished, I don't see how you're ever going to get rid of this fire assessment tax, which is just a tax. It's an extra 10 million being dumped on everybody else who pays property taxes. Just like the marinas moving forward, if you don't have any money coming in from the marinas, then the people paying property taxes will have to come up with $20.9 million through property taxes, when that could have been paid for by the marinas, which should be able to pay for themselves since they're very valuable and should be able to pay for themselves. So again, I look forward to having a public meeting on just the marinas. Thank you.
And for clarification, the fire assessment's not $10 million. We're discussing it's 5.7.
But it was
Correct.
10.1
Yep.
million last year.
Correct, Mr. Mayor. Appreciate the facts. Also, just as I know HRP was kind of off subject a little bit, but there are HRP resources going into downtown, Glenwood, Millville, St. Andrews, as you are aware. So,
Any other comments related to 6A? Yes, sir.
Thanks.
Good morning.
Good morning, guys. John LaPlante, I represent the Kelly Apartments. We currently oppose the special assessment for fire services. It looks like we're going to pay property taxes in 2025 of $250,000, so we just feel like that's an additional burden on our property that we don't need. $300 per unit is going to be pretty expensive by the time we get to a few years down the road. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Good morning. Walter P. Henry, 614 Maple Avenue. As far as assessment tax, y'all don't want to say it's a tax, but that's all it is. This money still just go toward the fire department. That's it. Y'all will start raising the taxes on the churches on this fire assessment and other home properties that folks have. If we would collect the money that all of these people that have all this property, y'all would not be stretching and fighting to get money inside of the city. Y'all got people that's more able to pay these assessments, as y'all said, that y'all do not collect from. And don't try to, but you burden everybody else with this. I just want to know what I told y'all when Michael came, y'all put too much on the plate. Y'all need to empty the plate before you start adding more to the plate. Now you done added too much more, too much to the plate. You ain't got enough money to cover what you got on the plate. And now you trying to take everything out of everybody else's pocket and from everybody else's home. That we need to divide as well at the city. Need to think about it. Y'all doing a little bit too much. You need to take some of the stuff you got on the plate, let it come off of the plate before you continue to keep adding to the plate. As long as you do this, we're going to have these problems. And y'all will handle who you'll give them to. Y'all will give them to the citizens of Panama City. We the one who gonna have to be messing with it. Y'all will be, everybody else smiling. But get these folks, got all these property. Stop trying to push us. We're gonna pay, because we don't have. But if we don't pay, y'all end up trying to take our property. And I know you ain't gonna take mine because I ain't gonna let it happen. So y'all need to take some of this stuff off of your plate.
Yes, sir, thank you. Anyone else on item 6A? Seeing no more comments related to 6A, I'm closing the public comments. Do I have a motion from the board?
Motion. Second.
All right, any discussion?
Jonathan, would you, Live Local. Can you explain that real quick, Live Local?
Yeah, so I mean, that's obviously something that was driven by Tallahassee, and it does, put some of our apartment complexes, I'm trying to be very simple because that's how I understand things. A lot of, apartment buildings and, aren't nowhere to collect any ad valorem taxes at all. In fact, recently, the St. Andrews Towers located at Harrison and Beach Drive qualified for old age exemption. And so we collected approximately around $120,000 a year in property taxes on that building, which went to support the city. And we're not collecting that anymore. So the only thing we really collect on that particular building is roughly $60,000 or so a year in a fire assessment. Most of our long calls for the fire department are at apartment buildings. And so, with a number of them that are exempt, we understand it. I mean, those are the type of buildings that require extra time, extra energy, extra resources, as opposed to just a single family dwelling. Also, I know we mentioned churches, and, I think most people know that my father is a pastor. I cut my teeth on a church pew, and they don't pay any ad valorem taxes, but they still require appropriately on the fire and police protection of the city of Panama City. And so I think that to that end, churches paying fire assessment is a fair and equitable thing in order to help fund the city to provide the services that they need and they rely on and deserve as local government. Is that,
Thank you. That works. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I mean, that's a fun conversation having your dad around the table.
Yes. he agrees. Render unto Caesar what is Caesar.
Thank you for the
Yes, sir.
explanation. And I asked that because, to your point, sir, most apartment complexes and most all churches are going to use the services. And to that point, St. Andrews Towers, the fire department's down there at least once a day, is what it seems like. And so the operation, the city still continues with or without the money. We got to have it. And the reason I asked about Live Local, are the apartment complexes that do pay property taxes non-tax credit, or are they all exempt? Or is it only tax credit that gets the exemption of property tax?
Yeah, I think it depends. I mean, they're not all going to be tax exempt.
Right, they do not all qualify for the Live Local Act, but the ones that do are 100% tax exempt.
Okay. Just want to understand that a little.
Also, our state legislature is going to be looking at ways of reducing or getting rid of property tax. And while I support that if you own your home, you should never have to pay property taxes based on the valuation of that home, I support that. We don't know what the state legislature is going to come up with, and we have a budget that we have to provide for going into 2026, 2027. So there's not a lot of wiggle room here for us. So we don't really operate in a vacuum, and we don't know what's going to come out of the Tallahassee. That's the other piece to that.
Any other discussion? Please call the roll.
Commissioner Granger?
Yes.
Commissioner Street?
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes?
Yeah.
Commissioner Lucas? Yes. Mayor Branch?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Commission, excuse me, the commission has adopted the annual assessment resolution number 2025-0909.1, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Panama City relating to the provision of fire protection services, facilities, and programs in the City of Panama City, providing certain findings, authority definitions, and interpretation, approving the assessment role, reimposing fire service assessments against assessed property located within the city for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2025, providing for hardship assistance, providing for collection, providing for application of assessment proceeds, providing for effect, providing for complex severability, and an effective date.
Item 6B is the second and final public hearing on ordinance 3276, an ordinance amending the zoning map of the city to reflect a zoning designation of Neighborhood General, or NG, for property located at 1410 Wilmont Avenue, parcel ID 29666-000-000. As background information, the applicant requested a zoning change to Neighborhood General. This item was previously reviewed by the Planning Board on July 14th of 2025. The Planning Board recommended approval unanimously. Staff concurs. This item was tabled at the August 26, 2025 City Commission meeting to this September 9th, 2025 meeting. Relevant backup documents are enclosed. Staff recommendation through the Director of Development Services is that the City Commission conduct the second and final public hearing and approve the ordinance. Mr. Mayor?
This is a public hearing on item 6B. If you'd like to speak, please come to the podium. Yes, sir. Good morning.
First of all, thank you guys. Never been part of this, and it's pretty amazing to see it. So, 1410.
Your
Walmart-
name and address for the record, please.
Tony Medrano, 1026 Pearson Drive.
Could you speak up, sir? I'm not sure that mic is on. Mr. Schwartz.
Is it?
Yeah.
Is it on?
Try again?
Is it on?
Doesn't sound like it.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like it's on. IT
Does it
team.
sound like it's on to y'all? Is up here, we're kind of in a deaf zone up here.
Yeah, maybe just use that one. That's good.
Yeah, take a seat. You're welcome to, actually. I've been
Can you
through.
hear me now?
No.
Oh, that's really odd.
That was lit up, too. Check. Oh.
Oh, it's just really quiet. Okay. Just get really close to it and speak loud. Thank you.
I gotta speak loud then. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, cool. So 1410 Wilmont parcel kind of matches everything that's in front of it and behind it and everything else with Neighborhood General when you guys mapped the city in January. So if you see the map, it seems like everything's already Neighborhood in General. The 1410 parcel has been vacant since 2020. So it was previously a church and it was vacant since then. And the reason it probably got residential is because nobody intervened with it. As a community, what I'm trying to provide is middle housing for the growth of Panama City. And I'm trying to use it for multiplex for the college that's next to us. And I'm trying to implement the vision that the city has already when you guys planned the whole map. When we left the last meeting, immediately I emailed the city to see if we can split the parcel, but the city cannot do odd-shaped parcels. So the very next day, I went to my next door neighbor, Mr. Wilmore, and talked to him about his concerns and let him know like, hey, what's going on. And we talked about three concerns. His property value, he thinks that if I put multiplex in that property, his value is going to go down. And I explained to him that with the integrity of work that we do, we have 10 other properties and other businesses, more than welcome to go to the other properties that I have and see the quality work that we do. I will not just put makeup on a pig and let it be. His property value will go up from a vacant lot to putting something there that is going to be amazing. It's only going to go up. His other concern was, what can I do with the house? And I explained to him, if we start the parking spaces, then there's no room just to do the housing. It can only be used for housing. It can't be used for anything else. And the third concern that he had is, what happens if I sell it? Someone can just move in and do a store or whatever. And I explained to him, well, and then he said, if I die. And I said, if I die, then I can explain it. But if I sell it, which is not the plan is, I'm invested in Panama City. I moved to Panama City to grow, and I'm invested in Panama City to grow healthy. So I explained to him that if I invest that kind of money in the property, unless someone really just wants to take everything down and start from scratch, they could, but it doesn't seem like it's going to be something that someone wants to do when something's already built and ready to go. I truly do understand his concerns. And I told him that I'm not an investor that's coming in just kind of changing things. I told him I have different businesses, and I invited him over. The city got together and kind of see the property. And I told everybody, all my neighbors, I'm an open book. Everybody can have my cell phone. If anything doesn't go right, you're more than welcome to call me, because I'm truly invested in Panama City growth. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Excuse me, could you just wait a second?
Yes, of course.
We mistakenly didn't put this under quasi judicial. So if it's okay with you, I'd like to swear you in.
Yes, of course.
And then you can say that what you've already said is truth to the best of your ability. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth in this matter?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions?
No, sir. Any other comments related to 6B?
Yes, Michael, if you can answer a couple questions. I know he said the.
We have one more. Were you wanting to speak? Yes, ma'am. Please come up.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Good morning, Jennifer Davis, 3934 West 21st Street, Panama City, Florida. I am just outside of this neighborhood, and that's not our only concerns. Our only concerns too is we don't want these developers coming in here and building a bunch of stuff like that, because we're a single family home neighborhood. And right now, my kids can leave their toys outside and nobody bothers them. Not too long ago, if they left their stuff out, people would steal it. Now, the more people that come in there, and you got a family here, now you want to bring in this complex, now you got 20 people that are not family, they're 2 people in this one, 2 people in that one, 3 people in that one. You know, grandma lets her crackhead son stay with her, and you know, stuff comes up missing. There's trash in the yard. People walking from McDonald's throwing their trash down because they don't care. They know they're temporary there. So it's more than just worrying about our property values, but we are worried about that too. And we don't want these developers coming in and building all this stuff in our neighborhood. We don't.
Ma'am, excuse me, could you come back? I need to swear you in.
I promise to tell the truth. That was the truth.
Thank you.
That's fair. Thank you. Anyone else related to 6B, item 6B? Seeing none, closing public comments. Do I have a motion to accept?
I'll motion to deny so that we can discuss.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
So we can discuss? Yeah, so let's talk about it.
Michael,
That's my bad, I cut him off. I moved right to a motion.
Swear me.
Everybody's getting sworn in.
Can we do a blanket, like, everybody?
What we should have. But for now, Mr. Oath, do you swear to tell the truth and affirm the truth in this matter?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
And you are? Michael Fuller, Director of Development Services,
Thank you.
501 Harrison Avenue.
So the gentleman that's building this made a comment, the parcel can't be divided because you can't do an odd-shaped parcel. Could you explain what's transpired?
That was staff recommendation, was that not to divide the property, because if you did, basically the only way he can configure it to provide enough parking for the what is the old church would be to park in the rear of or behind where the single family home is. And if he did that, he'd have to provide, it would be difficult to split it and not have the parking on the same property as the church. So the only way to get around that is to have this odd shape lot division, basically creating almost a flag-shaped lot, which we discourage.
So and a question, Michael, because when we approved these zoning changes, I do believe we gave you guys some flexibility in how parking is addressed specifically. So do you, as the development director, can you consider alternatives to parking? The reason why I bring this up in this specific case is we're talking about creating a parking lot right next to a virtually unused parking lot right now that belongs past quorums. And so is there the potential that they could try to create a joint use, or could there be other exemptions are provided for parking?
We would accept that if he had some sort of agreement with like the neighboring property, quorums or something that provides, if he could demonstrate to us that he has permission to use that for parking in perpetuity, we would accept that.
Okay. So I think a couple of things that I'm drawing attention here is, one, it's encroachment. And, I think everybody can reasonably have an expectation that a church, what was formerly a church, is not going to convert back to a single family residential. So on one hand, I agree with the person that's asking for the zoning change for that specific building. But when we start to encroach into a single family home, and we're starting to put parking lots on a single family home lot that currently exists, that's where it creates some tension with the neighborhood. And so that's what I was hoping that we'd get to some kind of resolve, but it sounds like either there's not going to be resolve, or, I would amend my motion to table, divide the parcel, accomplish what you want on the church facility itself, and then work through your parking agreements as needed. And happy to be a part of that dialogue. But what I do want to make sure that we protect, like, these lines were drawn with very care, and they're not perfect. So that doesn't mean that it's exactly right, like right here. I think in this case, the argument that a church facility can't be a single family home is a pretty good argument. But a single family home converting to a parking lot is where it creates tension, not only with me, but the surrounding residents. And so I don't know how we want to problem solve that. But as it stands, that's why I made the motion to deny, and that was the reasoning why. So if we want to try a different way, happy to, but I personally can't support approving the residential house turning into, some type of potential commercial use beyond that. So that's it.
Two questions.
Yeah.
Why can a church not being used or blown away not become a residential property anymore? If the zoning allows for it.
I mean, it'd be a 6,000 square foot house.
Okay.
That would in and of
But
itself.
residential can be multifamily.
Yeah, it could. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Residential, right now, the zoning allows
Right.
for that.
Okay. And can the house be a house can you do it without having the parking requirement? If you're going to make the multifamily, can you separate the house property and it just be a single family home? And not
Yes.
have, okay.
Yes, but I think what Michael's alluding to is, in order to maintain the parking on that one parcel, the backyard would have to go with this parcel. And what I'm communicating is, rather than build a parking lot on a residential neighborhood. Go find another way to problem solve your parking issue. Because, I mean, there's a 100-car parking lot sitting right next to this that's unused right now. And, you know, and I'm not going to commit that owner to anything, but I'm just saying, like, there's got to be a more creative problem-solving piece than what currently presented to just encroach into the neighborhood.
All right, so with the current size of the building, making it multifamily, there's not enough parking on that site in order to accommodate a rehab of that building. Is that right? Okay. So the site you're talking about, I mean, people are home during the day and they're open, and the quorums will be open during the day. Is that you think that doesn't create a parking problem next door?
Well, I think in all of these, it's no different than downtown or historic St. Andrews is, you know, parking is a shared commodity in aspects. And so I don't know if they would entertain that, but part of the beauty behind these zoning regulations is Michael has a lot of flexibility in how to address parking requirements in general.
Right.
And so, you know, problem solving by taking a residential lot and turning it into a parking lot isn't one that I'm willing to consider in this case.
Okay.
So.
And again, not to commit Mr. Corn to anything, but the parking lot he does have for his business is basically has more than enough parking for his business, especially when you look at the zoning, the parking requirements in the zoning code. He has substantially over the amount of required parking that he needs.
Okay. And has anybody had a conversation with him at all about it? Okay.
No, I haven't. But I think this is the case where it warrants it. You've got an excess parking lot next to this particular piece. Why would you go and create more parking? Like there's got to be some way to problem solve that, I would think. But
okay. Is that worth having it come back next meeting in between now and then try to have that conversation?
I mean, I think the question is for the property owner is, you know, are you willing to subdivide the lot and commercial? But that's going to be, I don't know that we can consider that right now because the lot is not subdivided.
Yeah. Right. I think if the owner is agreeable to it, table this item or request the commission table this item so we have an opportunity to have that conversation about parking and splitting the parcel.
Yeah. Or I guess the owner could roll the dice with everybody else and as well. So I mean, that's fine as well. So
and I would like to think about if we're going to ask the owner to subdivide it, let's not ask the owner, let's not make him go through all the fees that require that since we're the ones that are asking him to do that. It wouldn't be fair for him to have to do that if we're asking.
So one table it for 2 meetings, maybe?
That would probably be best, yeah.
I'll amend my motion to table for 2 meetings.
I'll second that.
Second, so a first and a second. Any discussion on that?
Does that include waiving of any fees then? Are you directing us to do that as well?
In the event
Yes,
that,
I'll amend that.
in the event that that's the option that came from the city, I think that would be fair to waive any of the application.
And by the way, I think that the neighbors will support that as well in that thought. So.
Okay. Table for 60 days, waive the fees, first and second. Any discussion?
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, did you say 60 days? I thought we said 30 days.
2 meetings.
Yeah,
2
2
meetings
meetings.
30 days.
Be the first meeting in October.
Gotcha.
Yes, sir.
Any discussion? Call the roll.
Commissioner Granger?
Yes.
Commissioner Street?
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes?
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas?
Yes.
Mayor Branch?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
All right. Item 6C is ordinance number 3284, amending the planning board appointments. Mayor and Commissioners, attached for your consideration is a first reading ordinance 3284, which amends how members of the planning board are appointed. The commission requested that staff prepare a proposed amendment so that the city's planning board members are appointed similarly to how the county's planning commissioners are appointed. The biggest challenge is that the terms of the planning board members would coincide, the biggest change rather, is that the terms of the planning board members would coincide with the terms of the commissioner or mayor that appointed them. Should you decide to have a first reading, the ordinance will then go to the planning board for a public hearing, similar and the same as all land development code ordinance. Staff recommends having a first reading, and I will recognize the city attorney, Mr. Zimmerman, at this time. Mr. Zimmerman?
This is a public hearing. Is that what?
Well, I didn't know if you wanted to give any additional background on and what your staff has done.
If there are any questions, be happy to answer them. Yes.
So if each member runs concurrently with the commissioner, the mayor runs every 2 years. And our terms are 4 years. So one member up there could be a 2-year term
That's correct.
Okay.
So the way this county is set up and the way this is patterned is within 30 days after the conclusion of the term of the commissioner or mayor who that person represents would terminate, and then the next person, either if the mayor or the commissioner is reelected, then the mayor or the commissioner can reaffirm that appointment or suggest another appointment.
And so if that person were to lose, the new person coming in could get it.
Exactly.
Right. Now, the difference in the county is all 5 members are 4-year people.
Correct.
Here, we're 4 and 2. So.
That's correct.
Okay. I mean, I think it's a great idea. It does keep change on the planning board as the change comes to the commission. So it's just figuring out which horse belongs to which person going forward.
Absolutely.
And this is a
public hearing. So this is a public hearing on item 6C. If you have any comments to make, please come to the podium. Any comments related to 6C? Seeing none, closing public comments.
I'd like to read.
I have the current members list and the wards that they reside in, if anybody would like to get that information.
Yes.
There are 2 members whose terms have not expired. That is Larry Carroll in Ward 1 and James Barker in Ward 2. There are 3 members whose terms have expired and are willing to remain on the board. Their names are Aaron Rich in Ward 3, Chris Stamps in Ward 1, and Brian Neubauer in Ward 1.
The title for ordinance number 3284, an ordinance amending ordinance 2675, which adopted the Municipal Land Development Code, revising Chapter 103 Review Authority, amending how planning board members are appointed, amending terms of planning board members, providing that this ordinance shall be codified, providing that all ordinances in conflict be repealed, providing for initial appointment to the planning board to occur upon adoption, and providing for an immediately effective date.
All right, item 6D is the first of 2 public hearings on ordinance 3281, an ordinance to vacate and abandon the alleyway right-of-way easement located on High Avenue south of West 21st Street. As background information, the applicant is requesting to vacate a portion of High Avenue designated as city property that does not retain any underground utilities or city infrastructure. This item was previously reviewed by the planning board on August 11th of 2025, and they recommended approval unanimously. Staff concurs. Following documents are enclosed: the ordinance number 3281, the staff analysis report and recommendation, and the maps, including both aerial and location. Staff recommendation to the Director of Development Services recommends that the City Commission conduct the first public hearing. And I'm told, Mr. Zimmerman, Mr. Mayor, if you'll bear with us a moment, this is also quasi-judicial. So I don't know if you just want to go ahead and swear in all relevant staff for this particular item number 6D, and then also all of items under number 7.
Okay, we'll go ahead and have, if that's okay, the explanation of quasi-judicial, and it'll apply for this item and then all of the items in number 7. But quasi-judicial proceedings are in nature judicial. The strict rules of evidence don't apply, but there is testimony that is received, testimony that is relied upon, and any person would have a right, a due process right concerning this proceeding. The burden of proof and quasi-judicial proceedings rest with the applicant. Therefore, the applicant has the opportunity to address the commission last, after all public participation and before the commission deliberates. So at this time, if the planning staff and anyone that anticipates talking for this item or for any of the items in section 7, if they could stand, and we'll swear you in. Okay, thank you. Raise your right hand. Do you swear and affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you. At the appropriate time, I will, if there are any commissioners that have had ex parte communications upon which they will rely on in their vote, if they would disclose that at the time any vote is taken. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, over to you for 6D, sir.
Yes, if this is a public hearing, if you wish to speak about item 6D, please come to the podium. Yes, ma'am.
So this is my neighborhood. I can see this from my house.
Your name and address for the record, please.
Jennifer Davis, 3934 West 21st Street, Panama City, Florida, 32405.
Thank you.
What are y'all planning on doing here? Why y'all want to let the city vacate it? For what? That's what I want to know, because I don't like what y'all doing in my neighborhood. There's a lot of stuff going on in my neighborhood, and I don't like none of it.
Thank you. Anyone else? Oh, we got two people. Yes, sir.
Oh, Walter P. Henry, 614 Maple Avenue. I just want to speak about these easements. I just like the city easement that the city has inside Panama City. I don't know why we would have to go through these easements that do not have anything, any services, anything in them. Probably would never be anything in them. Because all of the utilities, that's what those alleys was made for. The city never used them. Then folks had to come and meet with you, pay you to get these things closed. I don't see no need of that. You know you're not going to put anything in these alleys. Why are you holding on to these folks' properties? Why don't you just let them have their properties back? There's no need of this. You're not going to do nothing with it. Never do nothing with it. I can tell you several alleys, even in Millville, it's not being used. It would never be used. Y'all not going to put anything in them. Why you take have people to come and talk to you about this problem? There's no need of it. Not one bit of need of this. Now, just to get some money, you didn't pay for it. It was given to you by the person that owned on each side, owned that, and gave that to the city for utility. And the city not doing that with it. Why keep it? You're not even cleaning it. Not cleaning it.
Thank you. Anyone else related to 6D? Mr. Mulligan? Good morning. Local wrestling legend.
My name's Mark Mulligan. I live at 1106 West 11th Street. I was sworn in. I'm the property owner requesting the abandonment. We've cleared the land there and we want to build something zoned R2. And I really can't get our civil engineer working on the property without seeing what's going to happen with High Avenue. Because the only way we can access the property is through the undeveloped area. And so instead of asking the city to here and pave it for us and put all the underground utilities, and since it goes down to a dead end anywhere anyway, and the High Avenue south of us is already abandoned. It'd be better for us to have more flexibility if we had total control of the property so we can put it in our driveway and create our development that way and not ask the city to pave it for us, because that's the only way we can really access the properties through that unimproved easement.
So you want us to abandon it and pave it?
No. I'm not asking the city to.
I am asking.
I don't want to ask the city to pave it. If you ban it, then it gives us more flexibility to put it in our driveway to access the property to do what we have to do.
Yes, sir. Any other questions for that?
Yeah, I'll just, there was a question that was asked, a fair question. I mean, what is the city doing with this? I mean, I would ask the same thing, like, what are we doing with it? I mean, there's no infrastructure, there's no utilities. Our best guess is it used to be a platted roadway, maybe years and years or decades ago. So I don't know that the city just needs to hang on to property, and I believe the board feels the same way. So give it back to the citizens and the businesses of our city.
So will it be divided in half and each property owner gets half?
Yes.
Okay.
That's what I was going to ask clarity on. So the neighboring property, the single-family home to the
west.
east, will get half, and then your property would have half. That's typically how it would be.
Yeah, it does not all go to the applicant. That is correct.
So, my best interpretation based upon what you said, it's really just about accessing the property. It's really not like creating anything more than what you can create now. It's really just about access. Okay. I didn't have the answer to that question. That's what I've had most feedback from the neighborhood has been wanting to know and understand what's going on. I don't know if you've got anything that you can share, but there are residents that are around your property.
We want to build duplexes, they're just single-family homes, and that's all it's zoned for. We can't do anything else but that.
And it's already zoned for that, so.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, thanks.
All right.
Any other discussion? Anyone else on item 6D? Seeing none, closing public comments. Mr. Zimmerman, back to you.
At this time, it'd be appropriate to take, this is a first reading.
First reading, correct.
So I will, at this time, read the ordinance. Ordinance number 3281, an ordinance vacating, abandoning a platted easement and alleyway located on High Avenue south of West 21st Street, Panama City, is more particularly described, repealing all ordinances in conflict, providing for the severability of any part of this ordinance declared invalid, and providing for an effective date.
Item 6F is the first of two public hearings on ordinance 3283, an ordinance amending section 110-4, accessory structures of the Unified Land Development Code prohibiting docks in the Lake Huntington Channel. As background information, ordinance number 3283 as proposed will amend section 110-4. Are y'all limiting my time now?
That would be
Ouch.
wonderful. That would be
Time is up, sir.
Of the ULDC. Y'all keep Commissioner Hughes away from that timer. All right. Of the ULDC prohibiting the construction of docks, boat slips, pilings, and other, wow, that's a $4 word, appurtenances, I'll just go with that, within the Lake Huntington Channel. This item was previously reviewed by the Planning Board on August 11th, 2025, and the Planning Board recommended approval unanimously, and staff concurs. The following documents are enclosed. Ordinance 3283, the staff analysis report and recommendation. Staff recommendation to the Director of Development Services is that the City Commission conduct the first public hearing. Mr. Mayor?
Yes, this is a public hearing. If you wish to speak on item 6F, please come to the podium. Anyone on 6F? Seeing none, closing public comments.
I'll disclose that, yes, many in that neighborhood have been desiring this. Right now, we've got neighbors pitted against neighbors. And this creates the clarity that's needed to ensure both the channel that the city maintains as well as the neighborhood of property owners are protected from any further encroachments.
Has Sterling and James Pick weighed in on their-
Did that DEP hearing happen yet?
No, that's
No?
still in process.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
It's today? Okay.
No, just a guess. Okay. Any other discussion from the dais?
It's first reading.
All right, first reading, Mr. Zimmerman.
First reading of ordinance 3283, an ordinance of the City Commission of Panama City amending Section 110-4G of the Unified Land Development Code regulating docks and boat structures, prohibiting dock construction in the Lake Huntington Channel, repealing all ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for severability, codification, and an effective date.
Item 7A is the first of two public hearings on ordinance 3268.1, an ordinance amending the future land use map of the city to reflect the land use designation of residential for a property located at 2414 Michigan Avenue, parcel ID 26999-005-000. As background information, the applicant has requested a future land use change to residential and a rezoning to residential 2 or R-2. This item was previously reviewed by the Planning Board on August 11th, 2025. The Planning Board recommended approval unanimously. Staff concurs. Following documents are enclosed: the ordinance, the staff analysis report, recommendation, and public comments, and the adopted map series. Staff recommendation through Director of Development Services is that the City Commission conduct the first public hearing.
This is a public hearing. If you have any comments related to 7A, please come to the podium. Anyone for 7A? Seeing none, closing public comments. Any discussion from the dais? Questions?
No, appreciate the applicant taking the residents' feedback and making a change to the request.
Okay, Mr. Zimmerman.
It'd be great to have this 2 into 1 as well.
Yeah. Get rid of this again just in a moment. Get ready. Yes, sir.
First reading, ordinance 3268.1, an ordinance amending the comprehensive plan future land use map of the city to reflect a land use designation of residential for a parcel of land located at 2414 Michigan Avenue, Panama City, Florida, providing for a repealer, severability, and effective date.
Item 7B is the first of two public hearings on ordinance 3268.2, an ordinance amending the zoning map of the city to reflect the zoning designation of R2, Residential 2, for a property located at 2414 Michigan Avenue, parcel ID 26999-005-000. This is the same information as the prior item. Staff recommendation to the Director of Development Services of the City Commission conduct the first public hearing.
This
Mr.
is a
Mayor?
public hearing. If you wish to speak on item 7B, please come to the podium. Anyone on 7B? Seeing none, closing public comments. No discussion here. Mr. Zimmerman.
First reading, ordinance 3268.2, an ordinance zoning a parcel of land located at 2414 Michigan Avenue, Panama City, Florida, having approximately .470 acres, R2, providing for severability and effective date.
Item 7C is the first of two public hearings on ordinance 3279.1, an ordinance on the voluntary annexation of approximately .436 acres of property located at 2800 Jameson Drive, parcel ID 13027-118-000. Background information: the applicant has requested an annexation, a future land use change, and a rezoning to residential 1 or R-1. This item was previously reviewed by the Planning Board on August 11th, 2025. The Planning Board recommended approval unanimously. Staff concurs. The following documents are enclosed: ordinance 3279.1, the staff analysis report and recommendation, and the adopted map series, including aerial annexation, future land use, and zoning maps. Staff recommendation through the Director of Development Services is that the City Commission conduct the first public hearing. Mr. Mayor?
Yes, this is a public hearing. If you wish to speak about item 7C, please come to the podium. 7C, anyone? Seeing none, closing public comment. Oh, yes, ma'am. I've been going quick today. Good morning.
Gene Steele, 2911 Marin Drive, Panama City. I just hope that you vote to approve.
What was that?
I hope that you vote to approve.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Item 7C. That was quick. Yeah.
She's the applicant, just for the record, Mr. Mayor.
The neighborhood loves it. Perfect.
Yeah.
Or just a friendly, supportive neighbor. No, she's the applicant. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Ms. Steele is part of the voluntary home buyout program. She's current owner of one of the flooding properties, and she wishes to stay in the city. And so this is moving a little further down the road, not very far, but staying close to the neighborhood.
Perfect. Very cool. Awesome. Any discussion on the dais? closing public comments. Any discussion from the dais? Seeing none.
First reading. First reading, ordinance number 3279.1, with the final reading coming in 2 weeks. An ordinance of the city approving the voluntary annexation of .436 acres of unincorporated property located at 2800 Jamison Drive into the city is further defined, amending the wards and boundaries to include the lands and providing an effective date.
Item 7D is the first of 2 public hearings on ordinance 3279.2, an ordinance amending the future land use map of the city to reflect the land use designation of residential for a property located at 2800 Jamison Drive, which is parcel ID 13027-118-000. This is the same address as the prior item. Staff recommendation to the Director of Development Services of the City Commission conduct the first public hearing. Mr. Mayor?
Yes, if you wish to speak on item 7D, please come to the podium. Seeing none? Seeing no closing public comments.
First reading, ordinance 3279.2, an ordinance amending the comprehensive plan future land use map of the city to reflect a land use designation of residential for a parcel of property located at 2800 Jamison Drive, Panama City, providing for repealer, severability, and effective date.
Item 7E is the first of 2 public hearings on ordinance 3279.3, an ordinance amending the zoning map of the city to reflect a zoning designation of residential 1 or R-1 for a property located at 2800 Jamison Drive, parcel ID 13027-118-000. This is the same address as the prior 2 items. Staff recommendation to the Director of Development Services is that the City Commission conduct the first public hearing. Mr. Mayor?
Yes, this is a public hearing. If you wish to speak on item 7E, please come to the podium. 7E. Seeing none, closing public comments.
First reading. Go ahead.
Yeah, so a couple things. We've encountered this issue multiple times in this neighborhood. As a matter of fact, the city has has a parcel on which we are building what they want to build, but it's not zoned appropriately. So in talking with staff, what I've recommended is a slight tweak to MU2 that would accomplish making this neighborhood and...
Mr. Street, respectfully, I think you're on 7F. We're not to 7F yet.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Sorry.
I thought I was.
No, you're good. You're good. I'm sorry. It's the next one. You are correct.
All right, so any discussion with the
No,
dais?
no zone. No questions on this one.
First
Sorry to
reading.
freak you out, Gene. She's like, what's going on?
Is that what you said?
First reading, ordinance 3279.3, an ordinance zoning a parcel of property located at 2800 Jamison Drive, having approximately .436 acres, R1, providing for severability and an effective date.
Item 7F is the first of 2 public hearings on ordinance 3280, an ordinance amending the zoning map of the city to reflect a zoning designation of mixed use 3 or MU3 for a property located at 1906 Louise Avenue, which is parcel ID 28071-000-000. As background information, the applicant has requested a zoning change to mixed use 3 or MU3. This item was previously reviewed by the Planning Board on August 11th of 2025. The Planning Board recommended approval by a vote of 4-1. Staff concurs. The following documents are enclosed: ordinance 3280, the staff analysis report and recommendation, and the adopted map series, including aerial, future land use, and zoning maps. Staff recommendation to the Director of Development Services that the City Commission conduct the first public hearing. Mr. Mayor?
Yes, if you wish to speak about item 7F, please come to the podium. Any comments related to 7F? Seeing none, closing public comments. Mr. Street.
All right.
Did you have
Let's
something
try
to
this
say?
again.
Did you have something to say?
So MU3, where it's problematic and why we've had a lot of trouble in this specific neighborhood with these areas is MU3 allows for commercial activity, which is not something obviously we want in the middle of, the middle of a residential neighborhood. So one of the things that's been suggested is a slight tweak to MU2 that would bring residential uses into compliance, including properties that the city owns in this exact neighborhood. And it's basically just a density calculation is all it is. So rather than approving a potential commercial use, changing the MU2 language would be the preference that I would have.
I agree.
Okay, well, we're not voting, but yes. Any other questions?
Okay.
Seeing none, Mr. Zimmerman.
I just like it in my packet next time, so I can.
Okay, I will have a first reading, but is this a request to have staff go back and look at potentially changing the code so this rezoning would be unnecessary?
That is correct.
Okay, so
Is that happening already?
Michael Fuller, Director of Development Services. Yes, we've already started to research that. Like Commissioner Street was saying, part of the issue with rezoning to MU3 is that it will then allow for additional commercial uses. That's not the property owner's intent. They want to build back a duplex, but the MU2 zoning district does not give them enough density to build back a duplex, given the size of the parcel. So if we tweak the MU2 zoning to allow, right now it allows 10 units per acre. If we adjust that to 12 units per acre, that would then give them the density to build a duplex, and there would be no need for this rezoning.
Could you look at the parcels that the city owns that also have
Yes.
duplexes to make sure this would bring them into compliance as
Yes.
well? Okay.
And that's across the board, 12 units an acre.
Yes,
So my question is,
Unintended consequences?
that's what we want to look at.
are you already bringing this to us? Or do you need us to ask you to bring this to us?
a suggestion is that this came up not exactly on these facts, but another situation, I believe in Commissioner Lucas's ward, where there was an adjustment to the underlying code that eliminated a potential commercial type use. And so if you would like to, we could have the first reading, then potentially delay the second reading until after it comes back from the Planning Commission with its recommendation about changing the land use code to allow additional density. And that would probably be sometime in maybe last meeting of October, first, or sometime in November. Is that a
Yeah,
fair
that's fair.
statement?
Yeah.
So that's, just wanted you to consider that. And I do believe it would take action to delay this until after you get a report back from the Planning Commission and staff on increasing density. Okay. So
So you're proposing.
So do you need
I'm proposing.
motion to do what Nevin just said?
Okay.
I second what he said.
Okay, so the motion is, go ahead and have the first reading, but then delay the final hearing until the first meeting in November. Would that be sufficient time, Mr. Fuller? Until the first meeting in November?
So that's all the motion is,
Yes,
correct?
yes.
I'm asking.
Yes.
The motion.
Yes, I confirm. I confirm.
All right, we
Can I
have,
second that compromise?
I think you're good. I think
Okay.
you have a second. You have a second?
No, he said.
Oh, you have a second. Okay, so Hughes has a second. Is there any discussion?
That motion also includes a request to go back and look at the density of residential in this area.
Confirmed again.
Okay, and a second's confirmed? Yeah. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Granger?
Yes.
Commissioner Street?
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes?
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas?
Yes.
Mayor Branch?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, the first reading is ordinance number 3280, an ordinance zoning a parcel of property located at 1906 Louise Avenue, Panama City, having approximately .184 acres, mixed use 3, providing for severability and effective date, and the final hearing on this ordinance will not occur until the first meeting in November.
We are in audience participation. If you-
We only have one meeting in November as a reminder.
Okay. We are in audience participation. If you wish to speak about any other agenda items related to this agenda, please come forward. You have 3 minutes. Oftentimes, questions get answered that you might have in the agenda item as well. So if we stare at you blankly, it just means we're going to answer that question later. Yes, ma'am. Good morning. We'll wait till you come to the microphone so it's all in this. Yeah, no worries.
My name is Dawn. It is a Nancy, blue, brown, My current address is 1618 Hamilton Avenue, Panama City, Florida, 32405. You have to excuse me because I am very nervous. I've never been in front of a panel like this. But I'm here this morning in reference, I have a request for relief from Gateway Overway requirements. I'm here today in regards to 920 MLK Boulevard. I'm in the process of purchasing this particular piece of property for Bonds by Dawn LLC. My current business location is at 723 East 9th Court here in Panama City. And this relocation moves me approximately 200 feet from where I have successfully operated for more than 20 years. I'm also a native of Panama City and the Glenwood community. During the pre-development review, I learned that the site falls within the Gateway Overlay. Based on the standards that apply to the non-residential properties within the overlay, the scope of the required improvements would significantly increase project costs, potentially doubling my proposed investment in the property. These costs were not anticipated at the time of my offer. Given the extremely short distance of the relocation, my continuous operation and upkeep at the current site, and my longstanding local ownership and community investment, I respectfully request relief in the form of grandfathering or an exemption waiver from the Gateway Overlay requirements for this project. If a different mechanism is more appropriate, such as administrative relief, alternative compliance, or a variance, I would value your guidance on the best path. My goal is to continue serving the neighborhood in a permanent revitalized space consistent with the City of Panama City, their CRA's broader revitalization, objectives along the MLK corridor. I'm committed to reasonable site enhancements that support safety and appearance, but I'm concerned the full overlay package would make the project financially infeasible for a small locally owned business. Thank you for your consideration and continued support of local businesses. Thank you all very much.
Yes, ma'am, you did great.
Here, which is not nervous.
Yeah, you did great. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Again, Walter P. Henry, 614 Maple Avenue. Our SHIP program that the city have, it's blowing in the air that y'all thinking about getting rid of it. And I think the citizens need to know why y'all getting rid of it. It's gonna affect a bunch of folks that want to build houses, not able to build, pay someone else to build one for them for a higher price. And I just want to know, sometimes y'all just want to slip things under the curtain and nobody knows about it. I just like to know why we're going to get rid of the SHIP program that's helping citizens that they could be able to get in their own home and paying these renters higher prices for homes that they have had for years, paid for them probably 10 times, and they still trying to get more for them. Nobody's trying to help the peoples. But then y'all want to try to get rid of something that is going to help the citizens of Panama City. I know you probably ain't going to help me. And I'm not looking for you to do that. I'm concerned about the city as a whole, the people that is in the city. Some folk will not come and talk to y'all because they know what y'all are already going to do. And you're there to help the people's citizens of Panama City, not to hurt them. They done had enough of that. So when you get up here make these things in your heart, not just to do something to help you to get a vote from one another. That ain't the agenda why you're on this board. You're on this board to help the citizens of Panama City.
Thank you. Any other comments related to the agenda items on this week's agenda? Good morning.
Morning. Derek Thomas, 1100 West 10th Street. Come to you to talk about 13A and 13B. If you're going to be spending around $1 million to come up with a flood plan, you should go to the EPA and ask them if you declared something a wetland and a year later you undeclare it a wetland, and then the floodplain. When I moved here, the floodplain was a block away from the water. It was 2 blocks from my house. Now it extends out 3.5 blocks where my neighborhood is, just for the block. And that's exactly where they changed it from being a wetland and being part of the drainage system for 100 years or so. And now it's residential neighborhood where they're planning on building on it. And even though when somebody put one of those oil tanks that you put right next to your house, they put one next to the side of the road and it sunk all the way down till there was only a couple inches left. And now they're thinking about putting a house there. I mean, if you're going to do that, you should be more responsible. The original plans had taken into account when the city was first designed to handle flooding and to properly drain neighborhoods, and that's gone out the window. And since Hurricane Michael in Panama City North, where there's right next to 231, on top of the hill, there's a residential neighborhood, and it's got 2 sides of it on the northeast and the southeast. And now on the northeast, all along the edge of that residential neighborhood, they're building up higher density, and they're building it 5 feet above the height of everything else in the neighborhood. And that's right along the edge of the hill. And that blocks all the water in the neighborhood. And there's other neighborhoods too, and you're doing voluntary home buyouts for properties that are being flooded. I don't think in some cases those need to be if you just kept in place the drainage that has been there in the past. If we had a system that worked in the past, and we don't have a system now, there should be something where you could do, like respect the EPA when they declare something a wetland, because that means you're not supposed to just bury it. And that's what happened in my neighborhood. And pass code enforcement regulations that say if somebody's flooding somebody else's property, that's a violation and it does actual damage to other people's property, so you should not allow it. Right now, you're saying that there's a plan that you can't just go in and flood other people's property, but that's only if you file a permit. People across the street never filed a permit. And so they were allowed to get away with it. If code enforcement had a rule saying you can't come in and bury part of the drainage system, then the public would have had some recourse other than going to small claims court, because it was a civil code violation to force runoff onto other people's property. But if you had a system that worked, and for more than 10 years that I lived here, it worked beautifully. I was impressed at how well it worked. And then that was all thrown out the window because you want higher density and more housing. So show some respect for the people that live here, and don't take away the drainage system that works unless you got a plan to address that.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Anyone else? Any comments related to any agenda items today? Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, and forgive me if I'm out of Rufus Wood, 1911 East 10th Street. I know that you all mentioned about changing the process for selecting the members of the planning board, and perhaps I should have came and spoke then, but I just wanted to bring before you that I'm concerned about diversity on the planning board as well as all of our committees, so I just hope that you all will keep that in mind. I know that Reverend Barker is a part of the planning board, but I was just wondering, do we have any females on there? And I just think that we ought to keep in mind diversity as we move forward. And I think what you're doing in terms of that process with the planning board is probably a good plan, but I would hope that as y'all move forward, that y'all would keep that in mind, as well as all of the other boards and committees of the city. I mean, we are large city, and there's a lot of diversity here, and I hope that we would keep that in mind, and I'd like to see that reflected in our boards and committees. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Anyone else? Any other public comments? Seeing none, closing public comments.
Mr. Mayor, I'll just add for the record, all of the homes in the voluntary home buyout program flooded before Hurricane Michael. So just for the record. So
consent agenda.
A motion we approve consent agenda as modified.
Second.
Any discussion? Call the roll.
Commissioner Granger?
Yes.
Commissioner Street?
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes?
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas?
Yes.
Mayor Branch?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay. Now we get to all the edits. So 9I move to, am I up next? Which one's next?
You're up next.
10-8.
Yeah, you're next, Mr. Mayor. This is the new 10A, which is, you asked for mayor's report on process flow, I believe.
Yeah, I want to discuss, I've been surprised a few times on agenda items when I get my briefing and the agenda for upcoming meeting of things that I don't know the origin story of. And this kind of comes up it's come up multiple times and relates to the item we moved to 13G, where we're talking about fundamental changes in a district. And I mentioned it, I sent an email to Jonathan, hopefully he distributed it, but you know, as a person who owns property in Harrison Avenue and the mayor, I look at this agenda and I go, where did this come from? Was it an owner or was it another commissioner? Or I'm just trying to understand the problem that we're solving for and who's championing this idea. If we're elected, we have we don't operate the city day to day. We're policy directors. And so I'm in my head, I'm like, who's shaping this policy that affects me not only as a citizen, but as a mayor? And other cities will often add, and maybe it's not every agenda item, but they'll have almost a sponsoring elected official. This is the person that's bringing this item before us. And that way we kind of know who's passionate about the idea. But yeah, I just want to kind of talk about how policy gets shaped. And I've even been surprised a few times related to the property registration. And this, I'm not trying to throw staff under the bus. They're hardworking, they care. But we started editing an ordinance and we didn't have consensus of the policy directors that we even wanted to do the thing. So a lot of my concern is, as a person who leads businesses, and every moment that my staff spends time on is, in my personal business, it's my money, but in this organization, it's the citizens' money. Every time we start editing something, and I want to make sure that this board has opportunity to shape policy early on, but then identify the origin story of where the policy is coming from as well.
What is your end goal?
A discussion of a better way, or enabling staff to come back to us. And I haven't researched how potentially Destin does it, if it's codified or if it's just a suggestion on the agenda, or if it's a communication loop. I don't really have a goal besides feeling as a policy person that I know about things up front, or I know the person in the commissioner of that ward is championing that thing, that they're aware of it and tracking it.
So a couple suggestions. One would be, and this has happened, I think a great example is the no smoking in parks ordinance. Like, because we can't discuss policy due to sunshine, sometimes, I don't know whether or not that's one of the persons on the dais that's championing it, or if it's, some other issue. So maybe within our background, we could notate, hey, this is based upon feedback staff's gotten, which I think is where that one came from. It was based upon some feedback from Parks and Rec staff. Or if it's a problem that we're trying to solve in one of the neighborhoods that we represent, it would be good to know, because a lot of times if I see something, it's something that's happening in Ward 1, let's just use it as that. My expectation is there's already been some type of vetting process with that elected official before we've gotten to that point. And so I don't know if there's a way to list that, but I think those are things that could be helpful so that we're not surprised, because there has been times that I've been surprised. I'm like, oh, I thought for sure this would have already been vetted through before we got here. And I don't know that that's a fault of staff. I think it's just kind of because we don't discuss, there's assumptions that are going on a lot of times. And a lot of times those assumptions aren't correct.
Yeah, and adding that, we get our agenda packet, we got it emailed to us Wednesday evening, Thursday evening.
Which is earlier than we had been getting
Yeah,
it.
and so a lot of times that's the first time we're seeing some of these things. It's like, wait, what's this? And that's why even when we're talking about the Lake Huntington, I'm like, hey, did you reach out to the stakeholders? Because I only saw about this 3 days ago.
Yeah.
And so I'm having to unpack all these agenda items, make sure all the stakeholders in the community understand them, have weighed in. But then I'm also kind of relying on everyone else up here to do the same thing. So we don't get surprised on things.
So one of the problems if you require a name tagged to it, and then you have to decide whether or not you allow staff to put things on there that that none of us are championing.
And smoking in the parks was one of them.
But yeah, and then maybe that's
Not that we didn't champion it, we just didn't bring it forward.
That's not probably the best example of what I'm looking at. I'm looking at things like, hey, the staff has identified that X amount of lift stations need to be repaired, and here's some grant money to help fix that. We'd like to use this grant money to fix it. I mean, is that something that they necessarily need to seek out an elected official and say, will you champion this for me? I think not. I think there's a more efficient way of doing business. I would suggest a felt needs statement on everything that comes before us.
What?
A felt needs statement, like it drives to the heart of the origination of the request. Because when it comes before us, it is literally a request, right? We can deny it, we can not move forward with it, which is a denial, a pocket denial, or we can modify it, or we can move it forward. There's a kind of a spectrum of choices that we have, but everything that comes before us is a request. So I think a felt need origination statement, just one sentence that says, hey, this is kind of where this was derived from. Whether it's one of us that's asking for it,
sure,
and if that's the case, then I would suggest that we craft that statement and give it to them. Because obviously we're not just trying to dream up crazy stuff to do. Usually what we're trying to do is solve issues that have been brought to us. Right? I mean, I don't know about y'all. I don't sit at home and think up new stuff to do with the city.
And there's plenty of problems to solve.
There's plenty of problems to solve. And a lot of times we can't solve all of them. We just have to pick which ones we think are the most important ones and the most, urgent ones to solve. And so that's where I just suggest that there just maybe we just add to each request, hey, there's a felt needs, like why? Why is this coming before us?
So
specifically,
I would say ordinances are a lot different than a purchase order.
Yeah.
So ordinances is when we're codifying something in law versus an expense that may be a budgetary requirement that's required in our procurement policy. So I think there should definitely be an extra step of diligence in ordinances specifically. And what that looks like, I don't know. The other thing we could look at, and maybe this is for one of our workshops, is, the county has a process in which they appoint elected officials over specific, like that. Like they have an elected official over, not departments, but it's done in such a way that they act as a liaison for certain objectives that are in their governmental process. That could be an aspect that we look at, that it doesn't have to be board specific, but it could be topic specific and aligned with maybe some of our skills and giftings and talents to assist. Those are just a couple of ideas.
I'm not opposed to that. I would rather it be more topic specific than and project based rather than programmatic based. If you picked a specific topic and
like IT,
I'm
not doing that.
And so IT, I don't know that. So like cybersecurity, that's a big one. I've been kind of talking with staff on, is getting the city better in a cybersecurity position better. Even though every single thing that the city does, 99% of the city's business is done in the public, with the exception of security stuff. Imagine if it was completely wiped away tomorrow, and that's a risk of cybersecurity, right? But yeah, it's hard to answer the citizens that you represent when you have an entire thing that another commissioner is completely over, if that makes sense. The county doesn't have single member districts, and so they're a little bit easier to answer that. But yeah, like if we put, say, the mayor over all of paving, in the city, then that would be harder for me to answer those questions to my constituents of like why their road's not getting fixed. Well, you got to go talk to the mayor, you know, or what have you. But I'd rather not be put in that kind of position.
No, it could be a bad suggestion. So
no, it's not a bad suggestion. I just
and I'm okay with that.
I think it's a good suggestion.
The mayor brought up a topic, and so I think
I just think it should be more programmatic, like the water issues that we're dealing with, or you know, certain budgetary things, right? That's fine. I think that's wise to use the skill sets that we uniquely bring to this board to solve some of the issues that face this board. Absolutely. I just don't want it to be a long term, like you're the czar of whatever now, you know, that kind of thing. I don't want to be a czar. Yeah.
If I may, Mr. Mayor, so I will just admit on item 6E as an echo, staff, specifically me, we did drop the ball on this one with the mayor. Just kind of looked over the last few weeks and the way the schedule fell. You normally should not be learning about this as elected official when the agenda goes live the Wednesday before. In this case, Mayor Branch did because of just his and my schedule over the few weeks prior, and we should have recognized that we hadn't spoke to him with that. I think to me, I think more the philosophical question is, first off, staff, I mean, we probably only a third comes to you. And I know how much you guys get hit up on things because it's almost always an email or a text to me to follow up on it. That's probably only a third of what staff gets hit with on a regular basis. I think the question is do we want to kind of like, I guess, get sign off on a concept on the front end, or working through the process and making a recommendation, be told, you know, at the end that, you know, there's not support for it. I think that's kind of the question.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know that we always know on the front end because there's a lot of questions to be asked. So,
both.
What now?
I think you can do both.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's just an ongoing discussion where we're trying to figure out, I'm trying to avoid surprise, but also avoiding staff working on things that we haven't built enough consensus on, where they're working on stuff, they're bringing it to the agenda and they don't have support of it, or that none of us are really wanting to see it on the agenda. And so I don't know if we need more, like the charter should be where we control the agenda, where staff is unable to put things on the agenda, or I'm able to take things off, or the whole, something like that. But I want to avoid spending tax dollars on things that come here and everyone's like, where did that come from? Because that's not what I'm hearing. If you're looking for problems to solve, I can give you a giant list. I get those via email.
Well, I'll just say very often on these items, just speaking from myself in this position in a year and a half, I mean, I'm not actively polling y'all before public meetings to know how you feel about things. I mean, some of you, you know, will raise concerns and raise questions, but, you know, very rarely have I heard, I'm not supporting this whatsoever. And a couple of you sometimes, going back, you know, sometimes you keep your cards pretty close to your chest until the public meeting because you want to hear the formal recommendation put forward by staff. You want to hear what your colleagues think in this forum to that end. So I'm just saying, like, I just want to make sure, you know, I'm not necessarily like polling you because I believe that's a no-no, as Mr. Zimmerman would say. So we kind of talk through things. We kind of introduce the idea and the concept, and then, you know, staff will you know, bake it out and you know, get feedback. We definitely look at best practices on other items. I think there's lots of value in some of the organizations that we're a part of, whether it be the Florida League of Cities or the FCCMA, to kind of affect some of that. But I think the big issue is that, you know, some of you may not know that something's an issue. It may be a unique, you know, kind of issue in say, you know, Mr. Hughes' part of Millville. And so, but, you know, we can't, you got to be careful not to say, okay, we're just going to single out Millville. And so this is a broader problem. So staff is seeking to solve a problem. And yes, I mean, sometimes it will affect the whole city, and maybe sometimes it may be very limited, but a lot of the limitations are usually just like in our entertainment districts or, you know, along certain corridors like the Gateway. And so, yeah, I'm just kind of thinking out loud here on, you know, kind of some of the process, but I do want to echo, like, yeah, we have plenty of work, you know, not necessarily just kind of creating work. These are items that residents, businesses in the day-to-day operation of the city that end up on somebody's desk, either from my desk, even down to one of the superintendents or one of the division managers' desks. And because something that we feel that we as a city should codify in some way to solve a problem. So that's just the generic genesis of
Yeah, I don't have
anything.
a real policy. I want to keep looking into this. I don't think we're going to find foolproof plan today, but the situation I'm trying to avoid is, what I would loved is the story of that, the awnings over sidewalks, the ordinance is no posts on the sidewalks, and if someone had come to me and said, hey, we got a little problem here, how do you think we should, as a policymaker, how should we handle an awning or a gallery under a city right of way? I would have said, let's look at Apalachicola, Carabel, Pensacola. There's a dozen examples of how other cities do it. Let's not outlaw it. And so that would have prevented us from spending, I don't know how many hours changing the ordinance, getting it on the agenda. We went this way when I'm the person that should have reached out to the DIB and you and said, what are we hearing? What do the downtown owners care about? Right. Much before we should have edited the ordinance and put it on the agenda or even formed the idea. We're customer service. And so we should have gone out and asked all the people and come back to you, well, here's what we're hearing. And way before staff time was spent.
One of the things that you've brought to us, Mayor, is our workshops, our virtual workshops. And I think I know I've begun thinking of them as hours, but maybe staff should also think of it as hours. And if there's something that they know they're working on, that would be a time to channel through the city manager.
That's a really good idea.
In software, we call it a roadmap meeting, which is, here's all the things we have to work on. Tell us the three things, like, the software team will talk to the customer support team. We're a customer support team. They're the product team. And, we would say, hey, what should we be working on? And the customer support says, these 4 things of the 5,000 that we need to work on are the most important over X dates. So those meetings are helping the people building the machine know what to work on efficiently.
We're switch to agile.
Yeah, totally.
Sprints.
2-week sprints, yeah.
And I see this discussion as part of our city evolving to a working with rather than just a working for, or as has been expressed over and over again by citizens who come to us, a done to, that the city or the city commission is doing things to our constituencies. And this kind of discussion that we're having now is somewhat of a new thing. Although I'm told this commission, since Granger came on board, has been more of a discussion oriented.
Oh, wow.
That's a joke.
Okay, got it.
You can laugh. But we do discuss things more, and you've brought that we've welcomed the virtual workshops where we're discussing things more. Yeah. So I like your idea of a felt need statement, and codifying that as part of what comes forth.
Yeah, and I also think, just from an employee standpoint, it's disheartening to work on things that don't get through. And, burnout doesn't happen. Burnout happens when progress doesn't meet effort, right? And so we want them to have progress of knowing what to work on. And so I think what you're hearing from the board is not like maybe a codification or hard policy, but it's an encouragement of bringing ideas to us sooner, so that we could go out and get the stakeholders' opinions on things and bring it back so that we're able to work with surety instead of surprises.
Yeah, as in the software world and IT world, you have what's called user statements, and these are very, very similar. It's kind of the idea of a felt need statement. And a user statement would go something along the lines of, as a user, I want to be able to use this software to do X, Y, and Z. And then that kind of tells the developer what the end goal needs to be. So I think the felt need statement should be along those lines, like what is actually being solved here.
Define what problem you're solving.
What is the actual issue at hand? So
that's it. That's all I have.
All right. My turn?
Yeah, your turn.
All right. So this is probably the third or maybe the fourth time this has come before this commission. And what in the past, what we have discussed, this is a very specific issue, a very specific discrepancy or dispute. The Sabiston family that lives at 4412 Fletcher Street, they have a very unique air conditioning system. And this air conditioning system uses water. It is a geothermal water-based system. It's not a very common AC system in the state of Florida. How many houses have you sold with water-based geothermal?
My dad has it.
I grew up in.
Okay. Y'all are proving me wrong. But seriously, most air conditioning systems in the state of Florida have a heat pump.
Most of the geothermals use wells.
Yeah, they use wells, right? And so what I'm getting at here is that I don't want us. We're policy directors. We're not technical people up here. Now we are in our own respective areas, but I don't think any of us is a plumber or a aqua engineer or anything of that nature. And so what I'm looking at is this is an enterprise fund which is designed to make money for the city to further support water issues. And so when we have a dispute about something that may have happened or may not have happened, that this board is endowed with the ability to handle that dispute. And again, this is a very, very strange and weird situation that I don't think we're going to run into again. Because again, most houses don't have this AC unit type situation. And so what I'm asking the board to do is to empower staff to work with the Savistons to come up with an acceptable solution from an engineering standpoint. We don't necessarily need to get into the weeds of what that is, what the specific solution is. It just needs to be acceptable to staff's engineering department. And then once they have that green light, then what I would like to see is for us to just waive the disputed amount that the city says that they owe and restore them back to water service. Because while we have a specific amount that is set aside that the city says that they owe, which they dispute, the problem here is the mindset of moving forward. This is an enterprise fund thing. If this was a general fund type item, I would never bring this to you. But this is an enterprise fund type item. And the longer that they don't continue to use the water and that they don't continue to be serviced by the city of Panama City, which by the way, they're paying the 25% premium, they can't vote for us. They don't even live in the city. So this is not a political issue by any means. It's more of a direction of how do we handle enterprise fund items. The longer that they stay off of water, the amount doesn't change and they're not paying into it. And the only thing that we have the only teeth that we have is you just can't come back on water, which is teeth, right? But if they were to come back on water at this point, from my calculations that I've done, from a revenue standpoint, they would already be over the amount that we say that they owe. We would already be over that amount, and that number continues to increase every month that we get past that.
What happened?
So the city says that the Savistons had a cross connect from their well to the city water, and their meter ran water through it, and that amount basically skyrocketed their bill. They then brought that to the city. The city was able to remove the sewer off of that because they do not have an irrigation meter. They just have a straight regular meter. And they contend that water did not go into the ground. They contend that that there may be another issue somewhere else. I'm trying to make sure I have just facts here, right? The city maintains that the meter is correct. They are on well water as well. So they don't necessarily even need to come back on city water. They want to come back on city water. They want to consume our service and pay for it. They just dispute.
Any $25
at a 25% increase, right? Because they live in the county and they're as far as the city is concerned, they are only a water customer. And so they're willing to continue to do that. They're willing to come back on board. they're willing to allow the city to come on the property and verify and validate that they no longer have a cross connect, or that any potential situation is approved by the city.
In software, we group problems. So you find common things, and I have about 5 different families bills that are I don't think I ran this much water through my reader. Like the dispute of that number simply can't be correct. I have one that someone's bill jumped 280,000 gallons in 1 month. Yeah. That's like 15 swimming pools. And you would notice that if that was a leak in the backyard. And so apparently water is I'm getting a lot of these emails now.
Yeah.
And so I did some research late yesterday on the topic of water bills. Miami-Dade has there's a policy for someone comes on your property. Let's say if you have a property and they break the hose bib and it spills. So there's a vandalism policy. There's one for a person that has a leak that got repaired. Like, oops, I had no idea there was a leak and here's the bill. And there's even one that's like, okay, everybody gets a mulligan. Everybody gets a gimme.
Yeah.
If the gimme is if your spike is 6 times more than your average usage, which I thought that was interesting too. But I've got the same problem of I got a bill. I don't think I use that much water. Can't pay it, or I don't want to pay it. And so I don't know if we should be grouping that problem, or we're suggesting we should group geothermal related issues. I'm up for anything I'm up for any ideas that doesn't cause the staff to not have clear, because they're in a tough spot too, just like we are. When we get those emails, they're like, I didn't use that much water. And I'm like, I don't know if you did either.
My goal here is to solve that issue.
Yeah, and
that's my goal. Is to solve the issue of, wow, I got a $10,000 water bill. How? I don't understand how this water could be used. That's my goal, is to solve that issue. I like the idea of the mulligan, one time, maybe say every 5 years you get a one time.
Yeah, and we don't want people to use that I got my gimme. So that's why they have the extraordinary spike defined by a 6x bill, and we can have it whatever. But what we don't want to do is cause it where it's like every 5 years I just dispute one of my bills with the city and they cover it. We don't want to create that either.
I think one of the problems is when the citizen says, I didn't use that, our only answer is, well, that's what the meter says.
Yeah.
That doesn't matter. To that.
Especially if you can't afford it.
I was hit with 89,000 gallons of water on houses that nobody ever lived in.
Yeah.
The only answer I got was, that's what it says.
Well, I've had folks come in with construction.
This was brand new construction. Nobody
Brand new
lived in it.
construction,
Okay?
yeah.
And so what we've got to do is find that answer. Is from the city's side, how do we answer that question to that person who says, there's no way that I put 100,000 gallons worth of water through my system?
What we need to do is provide a policy. I like the idea of the spike. I like the idea of, because it looks at just wave tops, right? Like extreme wave tops, like tsunami level wave tops. And it provides, it provides staff direction and more tools to solve these kinds of issues. Whereas right now, the only tool that they really have is it went through the meter, pay the money.
Yeah, and it's tough. It's a tough job because they can't just go, I'll just cut this person's bill in half and you're very nice, you don't have to pay, because that's how they get fired.
They're doing the job.
That is a tough customer support job.
Yeah.
That is tough. So I'd love to, so what do we need to go from here to enable staff to solve these problems?
So I would like to solve their issue today, and as part of that, direct staff to create, maybe look at other communities on how because we're not the only ones that provide water, right? To look at other municipalities and water districts to see how they solve this issue. I do like the idea of you get a mulligan, but the mulligan's it's gotta be a big mulligan. It can't just be, it's Christmas, I don't want to pay my water bill.
Yeah. Well, and, there's one thing, but the end goal is, so that's how we solve this problem. The bigger problem is the automatic billing. What I want is a system, I want regular updates to get to a point where a citizen gets an alert on their phone or email. It's like, whoa, what's happening at your house? Did you open a car wash? And they know before they get their bill, something's happened.
Mr. Mayor, I will say that feature is
excuse me, that feature is coming very soon. I hope that's in place by end of spring next year. As we work to restore our remote meter reading capability, that's something that citizens will be able to sign up for so they can get high usage alerts like day to day, hour to hour.
Yeah.
So that is coming.
What I want is like,
I'm sorry, under this new system, would they be able to monitor they could go
Yes,
into the
they would-
system and see what they're using?
They sign up for text updates and they can just check a variety of options, and one of them is high water usage alert. And so if their water is running continuously, whether they're filling the pool or they're washing cars or whatever it may be, or they've got a leak on their side of the meter, then it'll send them an alert.
Yeah, but would they just be able to, like
on FPL?
we can check our electricity usage
I believe so.
without waiting on them to send something to us? We can just go into our account and look at what our
I'll work with the
usage is.
vendor to see if that's possible and
Okay.
report back.
So is it maybe city policy though?
yeah, two things. So I want regular updates to get to that point. I want to know like T minus 114 days until we've moved to the new system.
Yes.
We have 46 MXU units left that need to be fixed. Like I want almost like it's been
Like a weekly
14 days since our last incident, like one of those quarterly, monthly, so we can tell citizens like, hey, here's the goal and here's how we're tracking to that goal. That's my, like.
I would say between that and roads, those are the two biggest complaints.
Biggest complaints, water and roads.
Water and roads.
And we're doing a disservice to the water department, not having this plan for them to even point out and say, we know this isn't the best situation, here's where we're tracking to, and here's how we're getting there, here's the progress. That helps them at least have something to say. But as far as policy, I would be in favor of enabling staff to find a policy that helps, especially in this situation, other situations of, the big spikes. What is that, X normal balance, normal usage spike need to be defined.
The delta, yeah.
And how to,
I need a little bit of clarity. So we approve this, we forgive the bill. What happens next? Jan, if you could explain what your procedure will be from that point.
I would refer every customer who doesn't like my decision to the commission for them to decide.
I think so. I mean, honestly.
Hold on a second.
I know, I want those. Because if you don't bubble the problems up, just like if all the beers at history class were terrible and you just told the staff and they never told managers that the french fries were overcooked. I could never change the vendor of the french fries. I could never change the oil. The problems have to bubble up. And so it's painful to hear the problems, but I 100% want to hear more problems bubbled up to us so that we can create policy to, one, create better jobs for the staff, right? And also say, this is a problem we're solving versus you, because it really is not a fun job for the staff to say no and then have no ability to say yes ever. They walk through our policies. We think they're perfect policies and we never hear that the policies are broken. So 100%, I want to hear those problems.
If I may, Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Real quick, to that point, and I asked the other day, in our departments, is it okay, is it allowed if an employee sees a way to be more efficient or it's something that's not working, take it to the department head and say, look, without, this is a good idea, and it be accepted as something to think about, not a, well, we'll think about it later. Yeah. They're the ones that are in the firing line. They're the ones that are working every day, and that's every department, not just the water. But this is a good example of, they might see a better way to approach it, answer it, and all we're giving them is A through B. They need, A through D, and they come up with it.
Jan, will there be any further process with bondholders, anything else like that?
I will refer the policy to the bondholders to determine whether it violates our covenant to not give away free water, and let them decide whether it does or not.
Yeah.
And perhaps we have enough information now to hold a special public hearing.
Yeah.
On water issues in the community. And let's just have folks who have the concerns come and we sit as a body who hear them. Because if we take the approach of just letting them bubble up, that'll be a groundswell over time, as opposed to we're having this meeting on water issues. If you've got a dispute, come, give you 3 minutes. a special public hearing on water.
One last question. Jane, how many water bills do you guys resolve a week, do you think?
Probably, I would say between 50 and 100 every week.
How many do you have that are unresolved a week?
This is the only one that I'm aware of.
Okay.
All good.
Yeah. Maybe the question is, how many do you have where the citizen doesn't like the resolution?
Oh, 99%. I mean, nobody wants to pay their water.
Yeah, I even passed along some other cities too. You have another bucket of problems. One is I don't believe this meter is correct. Some cities will actually charge you to come reread the meter and say, if we find this thing's right, you're paying a fee for us to go look at it. If it's wrong, we eat the fee and fix the meter. Some cities even do. There's a bucket of problems of people who go, man, I keep getting charged late fees. I can't get ahead. So I pushed forward an idea of like, maybe we work with United Way and give people opportunity to volunteer to buy down their late fees or something, just somehow helping people get ahead without just going, everybody gets a free water. We can't do that because then it creates chaos of everyone wanting free stuff. But how do we help people who are in the situations where they're getting bills and I can't afford it?
So we have payment plans that we suggest. We also have a list of agencies that people who are truly needy we refer them to, and they can go find some assistance. Those are a couple of the things that we do for people who struggle to pay their water bill. But at the end of the day, you're going to be the one paying their water bill.
Sure.
I mean,
the money comes from somewhere. Anything free to any credit to one person is someone else's burden.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I think though that to serve the community that we're trying to serve through an enterprise fund, so those of you who may not be aware, who's just listening online, an enterprise fund is a specific fund for the cities to make money.
No, to cover the cost of their services.
Sorry, to cover the cost of their services by making money. So it's specifically separate from a general fund. General funds are not, they're ruled by a different set of rules. So an enterprise fund can be more business-like than, say, the general fund. And all I'm trying to do is say that when we go to solve problems, I think there needs to be a different mindset that when we go to solve those problems, that they need to be more business-oriented inside of an enterprise fund rather than the general fund. Like, to give a counter example, I don't think that we should have somebody who gets a speeding ticket to come in here and say, hey, I wish we could reduce this speeding ticket. It was the only time I sped this month. That would be a general fund type thing. But providing a service that people have to use, like water, I think we need to have more tools available for staff to mitigate and resolve issues. And so with that, I want to motion that we empower staff to do two things. One is to work with the Sabistons to come up with a solution that staff approves. And then upon that approval, we will, I don't know what should I call that? Waive. I think waive is the proper term.
Another water.
What's that? Waive the amount that we say that they owe and reestablish their account upon staff's approval that the solution is good. But then the other thing that we'll want to hand to staff is come back to us with a solution that allows for a delta event where, as a user, I all of a sudden have a $1,000 water bill and I don't know why, that we can look at that and go, once you have a plumber look through your system or whatever the things that are on that, you can bring those to us, that it's not going to happen again, that we can then waive that large amount one time in X amount of years or so.
Can I make a suggestion, sir?
Sure.
So one, work with the Sabistons, and if they we get all this worked out, I would just make part of that motion, eliminate any potential cross-connection on their system that connects to our meter.
I'm leaving it to you to make that. Yeah.
And then a lot of cities, and I looked at, and Ms. Saviston actually suggested Callaway's water policy. They have a one-time forgiveness in an event like that. So the life of your account, you get one mulligan. So maybe propose something like that.
I'm leaving this more in y'all's to come up with the crafted solution for their specific property, but then also the crafted solution to bring back to us. So I'd rather leave that more flexible for y'all. I appreciate the recommendation though.
But your motion includes ultimately waiving the $888.
Forgiveness, yes.
Forgiveness.
Yes.
So what is there for the staff and the Savistons to agree upon?
The technical implementation of what is actually going to happen at their house, because they had cross connect before.
But I don't know.
They say they don't. I believe them, but I want staff to be able to look at that and go, this is good or this isn't.
So they're going to look at it and turn the switch.
Yeah.
Just for clarity, Mr. Granger, by staff, you mean Public Works Department, just to be very specific?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So it's been a year. They were here with us last October, or coming up on a year. This is something I would like to find an amicable solution to. And I would suggest that we have staff work as we direct before we waive as a action, because we have so many unknowns out there. So we're talking about waiving $888 when you also have people who say, hey, wait a minute, it's $2,000 that you all are saying. You know, if you waive $888 for someone who isn't in the city because of a dispute, how do we address that question going forward?
So the reason why I want theirs fixed is because we've already run into a situation in water where we have, and they brought their issue to us. I mean, they did. They came before us a year ago and stood at this podium and talked to us about it. But what I don't want to do is create a situation where upon this date moving forward, this is how it's going to be, and then they get left out of it. That's really my concern. And I don't think that we should waive or forgive the amount that they have, or that we say that they owe, until staff has given the green light. So staff, Public Works would take a look at the situation. Once Public Works is satisfied, that would then be the switch to say, okay, they're good. But I do want to solve these issues moving forward. But I also don't want to say, hey, we're going to solve these issues moving forward, but without a look back, they get left behind.
So I happen to agree with Janice's point, but what I will say, a little different take, with the understanding of what the mayor said, that we are okay with receiving those requests and having them bubble up to the commission level, to the point of creating urgency to resolving this long term. If that is truly the case, and the support of the board, I'll yield to going down this path. But I mean, Janice's concerns are very real and very valid, and are shared by me, as in we are creating a precedent that will affect things. And so we're going to have to deal with it very quickly and very timely, to not create a whole other slew of unintended consequences to come from it.
The urgency has already been expressed, not just by the Savistons, but by many of our citizens. And we know that they're out there, 50 to 90 a week. And we're in transition to a system that will waylay many of these experiences that we're having now. And how we handle this at this point for the city is going to be key. And I think we need to address that now, as opposed to just with one situation.
So I'm trying to follow what you're saying. You're wanting to do have policy now? Like us create policy now?
Not in this very moment.
Okay.
Today now, but in this season now, where we know that we are being, that citizens are expressing major issues, and that we need to resolve it from a broader perspective rather than one by one. And the bubble up theory is more one by one, and we're just kicking the can down the street.
So that was part of my motion to put it back to staff to bring us solutions for similar issues like that. Was that not sufficient?
I would say before the next meeting. Like, if you wanted to have that. I mean, here's the aspect of what that, so we are creating policy by making this decision.
Yeah, agreed.
Regardless of whether or not we're saying we're implementing a policy, what Jan has communicated is the policy will now be, it's bubbling up to the commission. Like, that is the policy that we're implementing with this. So I personally, I can support that policy, but with the aspect of, like, this is meant to expedite the resolve and the solution moving forward. And so I just want to make sure we're all understanding what I understood in that conversation. Jan, was I incorrect in that, or is that?
I'm just not clear on how the implementation of the meter, and they can get, you're talking about when the meter gets implemented.
Dispute resolution is what I'm specifically talking
Okay,
about.
we wrote a policy on that.
Okay.
You
So if we
adopted a
take
policy
action,
on that.
Does anything change about that policy?
Yes. Because I'm not the final say anymore. That policy gives me the final say. Now it will be the commission will have the final say.
I would argue that we've always had the final say. Yeah.
Well, Mr. Mayor, may I, please?
Yes.
Okay, so I think the kind of zooming up to the 30,000 foot level, I think the premise of the discussion today is really clouding everything. This idea that we have tons of meters that are just going crazy is an inaccurate assumption. The bigger problem.
But it will become the assumption.
Well, I know that it'll be easy to blame. My concern, and again, respect whatever decision y'all make, but you are potentially going to put yourselves in a very difficult situation, and here's why. For example, and I just state, I support us moving beyond the situation with this absence, let's resolve it. However, you're going to look to staff to weigh in on this, and you're going to hear your public works director, your utilities engineer with a PhD in this stuff, a utilities operations manager who unfortunately passed away but had 25 years experience before this, all stated there was a cross-connection issue here, and they believe that the water did pass through the meter and backfill the aquifer through their well.
And there are
If I may,
other cities
yeah.
that even though you used the water, you might have a vandalism, you might have had a break-in or something,
Yeah.
and it leaked out, you were gone for 2 months, and the water did run through the meter.
Yeah.
You have leak policies where, yes, in fact, the water, and the citizens still face with a bill that they often cannot pay. And there are policies in other cities to handle that. Just like we have a policy for the estimated bill getting caught up, we have a policy for that. We can have a policy for, all right, we got a crazy spike, they didn't see any water, here's how we handle it.
Yeah, so I would say the other example, just using examples that were used today, because I looked into that, the 280,000, we actually have a year of history with them using about 30,000 a month to irrigate half an acre. So that's an accurate bill. The other thing is, I didn't know this because it was a victim, and Miss Smith made me pay my bill because the water went through my meter. But people don't realize that a toilet that gets hung up can burn 1 to 5 gallons a minute. That's almost, that's over 7,000 gallons a day and over 200,000 a month. So, someone goes on a trip, what's one of the last things you do before you leave the house and lock it up? Everyone use the restroom. A toilet gets hung up and you're on the road for 10 days. You've probably burned almost 100,000 gallons of water during that time, and you didn't know it. So again, I think the point I'm trying to make is that the number of meters that just go crazy and say you burned hundreds of thousands of gallons, or even is not. I mean, the water 99 times out of 100 most likely went through that meter. And so I think we are getting to the point of you're willing to, you're considering waiving a legitimate bill sent to a citizen or business of Panama City.
Yeah, I mean, the estimated bill catch-up is a real bill.
Yeah.
But it's still a situation where the person potentially cannot afford to pay the bill. So we should never allow them to have water ever again?
Yeah.
Sorry.
And then hit them with code compliance because they don't have water in their city limits.
That's
Like
not fair.
it's,
That's not right.
so, okay, hearing y'all, I think my motion might have been miscommunicated. I'd like to kind of delineate what I'm trying to do here. One is I'm trying to solve the specific issue with the Savistons and provide a way forward. I'm not looking for staff to come back and report to us what they found at the Savistons' house. I'm looking for staff to say that we found a resolution and we're good with that. And then that would trigger the rest of what's happening. And this doesn't have to come back to the commission. The Savistons issue does not have to come back to the commission. So the second part of the motion is to address any future issues where people like the Savistons have a random wild bill, and that we can take a look at it and go, their average use over X amount of months, this is 6 times that. And so therefore we are, if they ask for it, that we empowered Jan and team to say under this policy, we can give you a one-time or a one-time per 5 years or whatever forgiveness, so that it doesn't have to come to this commission, but providing another tool to Jan and team's department to handle these giant tsunami type bills. Because I understand that you deal with a lot of people who don't want to pay their water bill. And that ranges from pennies to thousands of dollars. But when you have a situation like the Savistons have, where they've paid their bill dutifully for over 20 years, and then they have a giant spike, we don't have a policy that can address that. And that's what I'm looking for as part of the second part of the motion, is a policy that would have already addressed that, where they wouldn't have had to come to us, we wouldn't have to deal with this, we wouldn't have to be talking about it right now.
Can I reframe it? So you're saying get their bill down to what they wipe it, and then I'd say have a policy as them as being one of the targets of the use cases that we're trying to solve for.
So then we would have to have a look back.
Right, how far?
You don't have
This
to have a
happened in
look back.
2023.
Yeah, so that's my point is that if we don't solve their issues specifically, then any policy that we create either A, will not cover them, or B, will go back to 2023.
And why stop at 2023?
Exactly, and so that's where that's why I specifically want to solve their issue today, because they were dutiful, came to us, asked for it a year ago. They went through the process.
That'll be thousands.
But they asked for this, and so what I'm looking for is a bill or a ordinance that would help moving forward as well.
So if I understand what our current process is now, because we did make some changes that allowed for addressing some of these issues. Someone has a dispute, they give you a call, city, well, we don't have a water department, but they call the
Customer service,
right? Then if it can't be resolved there, it goes to the customer service manager.
That's correct.
If it's not resolved there, there's some sort of formal hearing or.
They come to me.
Yeah, city treasurer. And so they have to provide evidence, they look at penalties. And we added waived late fees and shut-offs during dispute period, and we put in that city cannot go back bill more than 2 months of charges. That's something we've done recently.
That was the estimated billing,
Okay.
temporary forgiveness policy.
Since implementing those, what has been the experience in your office with addressing the issues?
I still get at least 2 in my office a week, but there's still hundreds or tens of people that
And
are
it is
resolved either
potential
at
that we
customer
would see all of
service
those.
or by the customer service manager before they get to me. I'll get 1 or 2 a week. Usually.
What is the Savistons' normal bill, and what was the bill they received?
Their normal bill was about $150 a month or so. They received a bill for $880. And that was after the sewage was dropped off of it.
They don't pay sewage.
Okay, they don't pay sewage, so, yeah, that's right, because that would have been an option. That is a
That
tool.
wasn't, that's one of our options. If there's a leak and somebody has a legitimate leak, we can relieve them of the sewer bill because the water does not go through the sewer system if we can validate that there is a leak.
And so about $150 a month is about what they were, if you recall.
I don't have that
Would that have
information.
included sewer?
No, they don't pay sewer.
They're nodding
So
yes.
that's like 5 times what they typically would pay in their water bill. So the policy could be anyone who comes to us with your bill 5x what your average bill is, we have a policy to forgive, not the average. So you still pay your base. We forgive the top portion of it. So for them, it would be a forgiveness of $730 if the average was $150. They still pay their $150, their average bill, or maybe it's you still pay 10% more or whatever. Maybe it's partially, it's a sliding scale.
That's why I want to give it back to them so they can bring it to us and say, here's what we found, here's what we think will work.
Yes, and then we come back to vote on that policy. So,
Yes.
But I'm not in favor of just automatically giving them a waiver. I'm around building policy to help them and other people, and then we vote on that again.
Okay, so the problem that we run into from a legal perspective is that if we don't solve their problem specifically, then you open the door up to going back to 2023 or even further back, when they have been constantly asking for relief. So that's where I think you and I agree on how we should move forward. It's just the problem is that when the ordinance gets written, if it doesn't have a look back, they will be left behind.
Correct. And if we just forgive their water bill, we then going to have 25 other people going.
Maybe.
Similar, yeah.
Maybe.
So
You don't know.
Which path do you want?
Well, there's a pretty
Mayor and
good
Commissioners,
indication.
there's a
And-
solution for that. So Janice stated that this is the only unresolved complaint out there.
Okay.
So the policy or whatever ordinance would come back and to include all unresolved accounts, and that's how you include the same.
That's the
I
only
beg
one
to
I'm
differ.
aware of. There may be thousands.
I mean,
There was an answer given last year, was there not? So there was a resolution.
right.
So it's not unresolved. They've come back to us through Commissioner. He's championing their case. So we had a resolution. It is not accepted. Want to bring back and open the case again. I mean, we're not a judge and jury, but that's what it kind of sounds like. That came before this body, got an answer, and now we're coming back to say, hey, that just wasn't right, let's reconsider. And so Commissioner Granger is bringing it back for a reconsideration.
Yeah, or you could name the account number specifically when we pass the ordinance as well, so.
Say that again?
Tell us.
Or you could name their account number specifically when you pass the ordinance in the motion.
They don't even have an account.
The former account number.
Okay.
Just use the address.
You don't want to
Sounds like
identify somebody in
discrimination.
an ordinance.
Mr. Zimmerman, how do we navigate this?
Yeah, Mr. Zimmerman, can you give us a suggestion?
You knew we were coming to you.
Just on the, on the policy that the commission adopted, excuse me, it was on June 25th, 2024. And it says that you go through the process and you file a complaint. Should the customer remain dissatisfied with the customer service manager's attempt to resolve the dispute, a request for a hearing may be made to the city clerk treasurer. This hearing is pursuant to section 23-261. All evidence provided from the customer, the UGU, and the customer service manager will be reviewed, evaluated, and a final decision will be made based upon the evidence. Then it talks about meritorious claims. By virtue of the authority provided by the city charter to the city clerk as collector for all monies belonging to the city, the decision of the city clerk shall be final and binding. Any unpaid utility bill will be submitted to an agency for collection or recorded as a lien in the Bay County official records. Any person who wishes to dispute the decision of the city clerk treasurer may seek any legal remedy available to them. So it appears that if, based upon your policy, and it was not adopted by ordinance, I believe it was adopted by a motion, so it could be changed at any time with a motion by the city commission. But it appears that if the city were to do something specifically today, you'd need to also amend the policy to provide for this extraordinary situation, is all.
Okay, would you all support a motion that we push this back to staff to resolve the Savistons issue and provide a path forward on the large bills, like incredibly large bills, especially when we have a history of payment?
I think
so that this doesn't get resolved today, but that staff can bring us back some solutions.
I think, is that going to change anything? Because I thought we already did that.
Well, we weren't asking specifically for large bill issues.
Whatever.
I mean, I was really trying to get theirs solved today so that we can get this behind us. It doesn't sound like I have that kind of support. I don't know.
I've communicated.
People that.
I get it.
Look,
Say yesterday.
I've communicated.
Five people lined up this afternoon.
That's, as long as we have that understanding that there will be others that come, I'm perfectly fine with that.
I believe others will come. I just don't think it's going to be a deluge of people.
It may not be.
And if it is, we can solve that.
Under the premise of what the mayor said, of sometimes you need the problems to bubble up so that you can solve them. If that is the attitude towards this process, 100% I'm supportive.
Okay, so we have a first.
I'll second.
All right.
Wait. Two.
We need to be very
Hold
clear
on,
on what this motion is.
I would like to ask why we have to, not why. Here's what I want to say. We're telling staff what the solution is. The solution, if we do what you're asking, we're telling the staff, we're going to waive it. Just figure out how to make it so that this doesn't happen again or whatever. So we're giving them the solution. I like what you just said prior to, let's put it back. They've heard the discourse. Have them reconsider. We're willing as a body to say we'll reconsider the decision made with input from staff to find an amicable resolution, which may not include just waiving the fee.
Right.
Okay, so.
Make a motion. All right, who wants to make a
All
motion?
right, I'll just make, I'm gonna try to break this up into two different motions. Because I think that there's some, I'm not sure reading the tea leaves here exactly which direction this is going to go. So I'm going to make a motion that deals specifically with the Savistons. And then afterwards, whether that passes or fails, I will make a motion that deals with policy moving forward. So that's kind of my.
Is there a motion on the floor?
It didn't get seconded.
Okay.
So
Thank you. I just making sure.
yeah, so I'm going to make a motion that we direct Public Works staff to work with the Savistons to come up with an acceptable solution to the city for their specific home and their specific implementation. Upon arrival, if they never arrive, then the rest of this never happens. But upon arrival to City Public Works, having an acceptable solution, that we forgive the amount that we say that they owe, and we reestablish their account moving forward. They are liable for the $150 for that specific month that they used water, but that this issue will be resolved. This is a one-time thing, and they will fall under future policy of the city moving forward.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
I just want to say, I think this motion still gives the answer to the staff.
No.
And I don't support giving the answer to the staff. I will support reconsideration of our decision a year ago and opening this back up. But today, I'm not prepared to say waive their fee.
There's already a path to that.
Me too. But we can call the roll. Call the roll.
Commissioner Granger?
Yes.
Commissioner Street?
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes?
No.
Commissioner Lucas?
No.
Mayor Branch?
No.
Motion fails
Well, thank you.
2 to 3.
Yeah, try again. All right.
We'll get it before lunch.
All right, so I motion that, that staff brings to us consideration of how to resolve the issue with the Savistons from a technical and a financial standpoint. And also that staff separately brings us various ways to look at the large Delta bills that sometimes people receive, and a path forward, looking at other cities and water districts and how they handle that for one-time forgiveness issues.
There we go.
All right, we got a first, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All right, call the roll.
Commissioner Granger?
Yes.
Commissioner Street?
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes?
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas?
Yes.
Mayor Branch?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Josh, you'll be half that time.
Yeah. Josh, you got 30.
Yeah, I get 30 seconds.
Moving on to, I don't even know what, I guess it's still 10B.
Yeah.
10C now.
10C.
You added A.
Yeah,
There we go. That's right.
It's been 2.5 hours, Mr. Mayor. Might I
Yeah, I think we
request a short restroom break for everyone on the
Let's do
dais?
a 10-minute recess.
Oh, I was like, what do you got to depend?
No, there we go. Now we're live.
Yes, sir. 10C, I believe it's called. Mr. Street.
NC, appreciate you guys letting me put this on the agenda. I think we're at the point in our recovery from Hurricane Michael where, our citizens are demanding a different level of intensity around neglect, blight. And this one is specifically important because it rests as the oldest building, or one of the oldest buildings that we have left in our community, which are very few and far between. If you guys saw in the background information, this has been under code enforcement since 2023, and there were multiples before that, but it's been unmitigated and unresolved since 2023, the current magistrate order, and it's been collecting fines since that point in time. In a normal set of circumstances, we would have already gone in to mitigate this property. But due to the cost and the size of this facility, it's kind of set. And so what we have before us today is a potential funding solution to allow asking for partnership with DIB and the CRA to go and mitigate this building and prevent demolition by neglect for one of the most historic properties that we have left in our community. There will take further organization between both the CRA board, which we all sit on, as well as the DIB to see this come to fruition. The last engineering report was from 2023, so there is potential that there could be other things that are found when doing an evaluation now. But the reality is, if we don't take action now, we are saying we're okay with this building just resting. It's currently listed on the market for a very large amount of money. I think there is a significant chance, obviously any building, specifically a historic one that has many wood beams and those kind of things that doesn't have a roof, I think the property owner's communicating that they don't care. And so should the rest of us suffer through that process when there's legal means as well as legal instruction that's been given to the owner to mitigate the nuisance and protect the building and structure. So I'll leave that to discussion and questions, but the reality of what our decision today would be is to send a letter requesting support through the DIB and the CRA, and we would secure by the city a loan to go do this, and their revenues would be pledged to do that.
I guess my first question is that the highest and best use for that site to have that building on it? Take historic value out of it.
I don't think you can take historic value out of it.
Yeah, I don't think
Is it the highest and best use for that building?
To our community, yes.
To the community, for the highest and best use for that site?
Yes, through adaptive reuse. I would
The
say.
answer is no. From a real estate perspective, the answer is no. That building sits right in the middle of the site on a 2.5 acre site. You have to build around it under our development guidelines. I'm just asking that because it also, 3 years ago, was $1.5 million to bring that building to the place where you could then work to now develop it. And today, that's probably going to be somewhere around $3 million.
So I would say to that question, Robbie, is, you can go 2 blocks up the road and, there's an entire parking lot that's a larger parcel than that. So,
But you're asking the city and the CRA, you're asking the government entities to go in and fix something that we don't own, so it doesn't get torn down.
No, I'm asking us to treat it how we've treated every property that we've encountered through code enforcement. The only reason why this one's remained unique is because of its size. But any private owner at this point in time that had a roof that was gaping open, code enforcement would have already mitigated it. And we've done that. They would have either torn it down or they would have mitigated the structure. And we've done that many times. And so what I'm really saying.
It wasn't for sale. It wasn't a development site in downtown. There's a difference in what you're asking of other sites that we've mitigated. We mitigated a house or we mitigated a commercial property. You're talking about a centerpiece of the entrance to downtown. Is that the highest and best use to preserve that site? We don't have a user for it right now, so we're going to fix it up, and then a user comes in and wants to buy it, and I'm just being hypothetical, and says that building doesn't work in my plan.
So Mayor, you probably have the most experience with historic buildings. Can you demo a building if it's historic?
I don't know about the National Register.
It's not on there.
It's not.
It's not.
It's not?
It's not on the local or it's not on the national or state.
It is, because they had to take the white building was on it. They had to get it at the level. I wish Kevin was here.
Registry, it's on a registry.
It's on the registry.
It's on the National Registry.
It is on a registry.
Because they had to get the white building removed off the registry to tear it down, the old classroom. So it is. I don't know if that protects buildings, or if it's just a tax credit program or anything like that. But they could tear it down, from my understanding.
That was one of my questions, is why would we put money into a building that we don't own? But I think what I'm hearing from you is that the reason we would do that is to prevent the demolition of the building.
Well, I mean, it's mitigating the structure from further decay and demise.
So
you can Google demolition by neglect, and that's obviously what's happening here.
So what would prevent the owner from doing the same thing?
Because he's not going to. He wants to sell it.
I understand.
So he wants us to sit through while he goes through a process of trying to sell the structure that may take years, Robbie. And so the rest of us have to suffer through watching a historic building that exists in our city decay and demolish and create. If you look at the report, there's homeless living in it. There's all sorts of things that were in that report that are a nuisance to the entire community. And so if anything, the owner should be saying, thank you so much for not taking action sooner.
Would the owner?
What I'm saying is that by taking this position, the government is saying that's the highest and best use and not the private market.
The use is not my concern. The use is the nuisance and the historic structure. I'm not worried about what the highest and best use is. That is not part of our code enforcement process. What is part of our code enforcement process is mitigating neglect and those things. If I went through and I started determining based upon what buildings are getting torn down, based upon what the highest and best use is, we do not want to create that as a
It's also
precedent.
not part of our code enforcement to go for the government and go mitigate it through the CRA. We do it and put a lien.
Yes, it is.
No, we go in there, clean the property, we make it a safe structure, and we put a lien on it.
Okay, so
we don't go rebuild the inside so that it can be
That's
used.
not what I'm asking.
Would the owner of this property owe the money back?
It'd be a lien on their property.
Okay, so we would put a lien on the property, so the owner we would do that through code enforcement? Okay, so your staff is nodding up and down for those of you online. Okay, so the idea is that we through code enforcement, put a lien on the property. You found a funding source, or a potential funding source to fund that loan. So the taxpayers in the CRA are not necessarily losing money out of this. They're just losing the opportunity cost of where that money could go elsewhere, right? But currently is not. To fix this building up, then is there anything outside of just their decision-making process that would prevent them from knocking this building down? Well, what I don't want to do is get in a situation where we fix this building up, we put a loan on it, we lien on it, we do all this stuff, And then the owner is just like, well, I'll show you, city, I'm just going to knock it down anyway.
Well, they're gonna have to pay us back.
I understand, I get it.
So-
But then now, in attempts to saving the building, the current owner or a potential new owner just, I like the idea. I like the idea. I'm just.
They wouldn't,
yeah.
because a lot of the inherited value, someone who's buying that property, if you had, the asking price is like 1.7.
Yeah.
We put a lien on it for 1.2, now it's at 2.9. If they were to wipe the building, they still are gonna be asking 2.9 on it, because that's what they have into the property through the lien and the purchase. And that block of land is not worth 2.9. So the value of the property to a developer is the historic structure, not in this, it doesn't comp out, but someone who's willing to pay more money to live downtown in an older building. Yes, if we get into the highest and best use, which I think silly, is now we're looking at a single family home, we go, oh, we can't mitigate it because it should be a duplex.
Yeah, that's not a good.
Put a duplex on 2.5 acres. Let's go back to.
But the same theory applies to,
Yeah.
we're gonna start picking apart every single property on code enforcement and go, well, maybe that should be something else and let's not do anything
But
about
what
it.
we're saying is we're saying that that it's worth us putting the money into it.
Correct.
And saying that we're saying we're taking a position on it, but you're saying it's not okay to take a position on what's highest and best use.
Is that building worth $1 million to our community? Yes, I think
Yes,
it is.
Yeah, there's, so great cities protect their buildings
Okay.
and go to great
Now,
lengths.
somebody that's happened to talk to 3 people about that site. That's what I knew. No, nobody wants that building. It doesn't work for today.
And so essentially, we are saying that we would take on this building, because once you take it and make it worth almost $3 million to purchase, that pretty much narrows, if not totally negates, someone coming forward to buy it. And so after 3 years, the lien process, we've gotten the city. I mean, the city owns the building. Is that essentially how that goes?
The way that, if the city were to go forward, and I'll just make up a number, $1.2 million is the cost to repair the building. Then it could be, and if that number was determined by May of 2026 or 1st of June, it could be on the tax bill in November of 2026 as a nuisance assessment for the property owner. The property owner then, if it pays its taxes, would have to pay the full assessment of $1.2 million. If the property appraiser doesn't pay the taxes, which would now be in
Property owner
in May of 2027, then a tax certificate would be for sale. A person may not buy the tax certificate if a person feels that the property isn't worth $1.2 million. In other words, the tax certificate will be paid first, but if its property's not worth $1.2 million, nobody may buy the tax certificate. Same thing would happen the next year. And then in the third year, the commission could, pursue a tax deed. The commission could also at some point file a foreclosure of the nuisance assessment lien if it wasn't paid. So that's the process.
So Josh, I'm gonna throw you an alternative idea.
Yeah.
Minister Zimmerman, you can correct me. Your goal is to keep a building that many people have emotional value in, keep it up and encourage someone else to take it on and develop it. Right. So, and we actually can't, even though the National Register is an awesome thing, it doesn't protect the building. Mr. Zimmerman, can we create a historic preservation ordinance and define the buildings and protect them through that as a mechanism instead of doing a lien and going the other direction? Just saying, literally, you can't tear down buildings X years old. Period.
That's a good question, and other communities have done something like that. I've personally don't recall being asked to look into it about how we could do it, but I predict there is a mechanism for protecting historic buildings and maybe providing incentives to keep them. I don't know, but that's something we can make sense.
The Scuba House in St. Andrews is another great example of the right developer would either save the house or keep it a part of the development or move it. But beyond just Panama Grammar, there's a mechanism to protect other buildings' potential not just that one.
Pass the gavel and make a motion. And can you, in your research, can you also look at what legal ramification that creates for us by saying to somebody today, I'm not doing anything with it. I'm going to create this category for you, and it's going to make it harder to develop. It's going to make it harder to sell. It's going to, and now you've just either devalued my property or made it harder for me to own that property. And that's an unintended consequence.
So does the gateway overlay.
I get it. I just want I don't understand. My problem here is that you got 2.5 acres. That's one of the largest sites in downtown. Okay?
Yeah, there's a parking lot 2 blocks north of it.
Never mind
Larger
parking
than
lot.
that.
Somebody owns that parking lot. You're after a house. You're in a building, not after a parking lot. So we're trying to solve a building problem that's going to take away a 2.5 acre problem. And then if let's just say it's $1 million, and then it sells. They want to sell it for $1.2 million. That site's not worth the 2.2. Now you just made a site not being able to sell over $1 million.
And I would argue if you put a temporary roof on it, 5 years ago when you bought it, you wouldn't be sitting at this much mitigation point. So it's not my responsibility to address the owner's issue of neglect. My responsibility is to enforce the laws and codes that we have, and it qualifies. It's had a court order on it for 2 years, and nothing has happened. And so the issue it stands today is, do we enforce our laws or do we not? Okay. And this is a mechanism to do that.
And I'm not all I'm saying is the unintended consequence is the other side. The other side is, yes, this guy doesn't know what he's supposed to do. There's a court order. What's the court order say? Fix it, tear it down? I don't know. If he hasn't done it, we're going to step in. We're going to spend the money. He's not going to do it. It's not going to sell. You know who's going to own it? The city. Like Commissioner Luke, maybe not a bad thing, but at the same time,
maybe not. I don't know the
that's
answer
one
to
more
that
thing.
outcome. I don't necessarily want the building, but I mean.
But I think that is a realistic end result, because you're adding value to something, you're adding money to something that doesn't have value, and then what does that do to the other side of this?
See, that's where we disagree. You're saying the building doesn't have value, and I see value in the building because of historic designation.
I'm saying that you're going to add, using $1 million just to put it so it's safe. That's not a value added. You're putting money into it to make it so it doesn't fall down, okay, or it's safe. Now that money has to be recovered. So does if it's going to be for sale. So does what the owner has in it. Okay. Yeah. That one move by us, rather than follow. I don't think in the code enforcement it says we go in and we repair buildings. It says we make them safe. That's what it says.
Yeah, that'll be a mitigation.
We need to spend $1 million to make it safe. That one move could make that site be obsolete to some degree.
I think you're arguing the exact same point. He's arguing that if we wait a year and a half, 2 years, there'll be no option but to tear it down because we have a little window left of the buildings. It's like beep, with the heartbeats, they're going away. And he's arguing, if we don't do something now, we won't have it. And you're arguing the exact same point going to the end.
You're okay with not having it there. From me and my perspective, for the community value, I see value in having it there.
I don't know that I'm okay with it not having it there. I'm bringing to the point that I've taken 3.
If you don't do anything, you are okay with it not being.
No. I'm not. All I'm saying is, I'm just trying to give you the other side. I've taken 3 people there that see an opportunity, and what opportunity does not include is that building. It is in the wrong spot to develop that site if somebody wanted to do that. And I'm just coming from that perspective. That doesn't mean that's right or wrong. It just means that's another thing that if it stays there, which, hey, I love old buildings. My parents love old buildings. I sold a house in 1905. I mean, I love it. But it's sometimes you got to look at, does that old fit with what we got to do today?
Yeah, and the person that buys that old house realizes there's constraints in that old structure, just like the house that you live in, and say, well, it would be easier with a ground-up construction. I could put the door exactly where I want it to be, but this is part of the constraint that I have. And so I would say if the people who've looked at the building can't figure out a way to make it work, they're not the right buyers on any project. And so I'm in favor of protecting the building through code enforcement. I'm hoping there's more than just drying it out. I hope it's actually a new roof, like where it's like it does add actual value, where it's one less thing the developer has to do. But I'm also in favor of avoiding the situation where this developer goes, well, I'm gonna run out and tear this thing down in the next 30 days.
Yeah.
Right. And
I'll show you.
Right. And so I don't know if we have a mechanism to stop that.
I think we need to do the same. I think that's a dual-edged approach. I think the ordinance on historic buildings, I think is a great one that I could support. We've looked at it a couple times. We've just never gotten across the finish line. I think that's a great one. But the reality is exists today. If there is not mitigation that's done to the building, we are saying we accept that outcome. And I don't know, and it would be very interesting to get the DIB's take as well in this process, because I don't think the community at large is really okay with losing another historic building. And I don't want that to happen while I'm sitting up on this dais. And so for me, this and putting it on the agenda is more or less, I know what's important to the citizens. I feel like I know what's important to the citizens on this specific issue. And so I think it warrants our attention to push as much as we can to see if we can help and address it. And for 2 years, there's been an opportunity to address this from the last court order, and it hasn't been done. The question is, why?
What's the court order say?
I think it's roof, it's windows, it's several things.
A couple of things. In June of 2023, there's a magistrate order. It says that, I'll just read a couple of parts that are pertinent here. Within 90 days of June of 2023, the respondent is directed to complete any and all asbestos remediation recommended and to commence rehabilitation and structural reinforcement and repair the building, or advise the city that rehabilitation does not appear to be a viable option, that the respondent intends to demolish the building at its own cost in accordance with the guidelines provided by the city. If the respondent elects demolition, such demolition will commence within the first 30 days after the 90-day report period has expired. If respondent elects to rehabilitate the building such that it can be repurposed for apartments as testified to by Mr. Whitson, who was present representing the owner, such rehabilitation shall take place within the first 120 days subsequent to this June 2023 order. During such period of rehabilitation, 30-day reports will be provided to the city. Then it talks about acquiring materials. Then finally, if the respondent does not elect demolition, but rather elects rehabilitation and repair within the time periods, there'll be an additional special hearing on October 26, 2023, and fines were not imposed after June during this rehabilitation period or until further order. At the hearing on October 26, 2023, and of course, Mr. Whitsitt was present there in June. Nobody representing the owners, to my understanding, were present at the hearing. There was a further order entered that said that fines will recommence as of that date, which was in October of 2023, and that there was a finding of noncompliance. And there is also additional order about security, about making sure that the building was secure from vagrants and for safety type reasons. I believe that's the last order that we have is in October of 2023.
And if none of those were completed, and then we default back to the code enforcement of what our options are at that time, correct?
Right. They are.
The report's on your agenda.
Right. They are not in compliance. Then the city can take reasonable action to the code where it is to abate the nuisance. So in this case, the city, in some cases, the city has demolished homes. In other cases, the city can determine to abate it by preserving what is there. So what I'm hearing is that the commission is asking staff to pursue preserving what is there as far as the different options. to actually go through that process. The process has already gone through code enforcement, but the city would retain an engineer, prepare specifications as far as what needs to be done, get a price, do a competitive pricing for obtaining that relief, all the while notifying the owner that we're going through
Who can still go out and do the work himself.
Yes.
at any time.
Adding that, citizens have been cutting their grass for them.
Yeah.
So, and it's not that they're evil, it's just they're out of sight, out of mind. They're nice people.
Discussion enough?
Yes, they do.
And they should.
And they're probably watching, and they're nice people who do great work. It's just if this was in their town, they would be a little more, perhaps a little more speedy on getting it up to date and keeping it.
Yeah, if it was next door to your house, you probably wouldn't be tolerating what.
That's three that we need to fix.
Yeah, the owner,
We got to be careful about what we do to it. You might have a pretty building fixed up that sits there forever just like that. You okay with that?
Then at least it's still a pretty building.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not a nuisance at that point.
Okay.
Yeah.
the owner,
I'm supportive.
That we have no money, that we're not getting the money out of.
I'm supportive of this effort. I'm also supportive of a historical buildings. I would like to see out of that that the buildings built before a certain date are protected. But I still would also like to see and I would like it constrained to a geographic area. St. Andrews could be included.
Or historic
downtown,
districts.
in the historic districts, yeah. But I would also like to see in that provision where they can come to us and ask, can I destroy this building or can I just keep, I'm looking at just facade.
Architecture
right?
board.
Just facade, right?
We have an architecture board.
We do.
Yeah, that's great.
Do that.
But the idea there is that what I don't want is somebody's got a building off of one of the random roads in downtown that the building was built in 1910, but it's hideous and there's no value in keeping it, is my point, right? Now, that's all subjective, and so that's why I think it should come back to us as to whether or not they should be able to knock it down.
What, if a building makes the list?
Yes, if it makes the list,
I mean,
and then they want a demo, then they can come and say, hey, this is what the building looks like, this is what it
Who
is.
does the identification of the buildings?
I think Alan suggested the
Historic
architect.
Historic partnership?
And sometimes there's a preservation board. The DIB could be one, the waterfront partnership could be one.
Okay.
I like that.
We have an architecture board already.
Let's not create another board.
We already have existing boards that
Yeah.
can weighing on different parts of town, so.
But sentimentality is subjective.
Oh, yeah.
And so as we were talking about preserving historic buildings, which I agree with policy, we're decades too late because we've lost too many of them. I do think that what we put in place should also consider that subjectivity of neighborhoods, because it's off the street and down the road. It still has sentimental value and is historic for that neighborhood.
just a little background on the owner. The owner does have a track record of building apartments from historic buildings similar to this. And the building was purchased after Hurricane Michael. So the owner that owns it now bought the property with the intention of developing apartments, not just in the historic building, but two different wings on either side. They had a site plan done. The owners never said that it wants to tear down the building. It's always said, we want to preserve the building. So I think that this might be good as far as, opening up the dialogue again, as far as where we can go. I know that the owner was aware of CRA grants that were available at the time the property was purchased. Those grants are probably more robust now than they were at the time the property was purchased. And so I think it would all be a good thing to, open up the discussion. And the owner did call me. He did see this on the agenda. And so looking forward to furthering those discussions with him.
For them to come back and say, what new credits do you have? And the DIB's talking about this tax credit program that the CRA has. We have some very aggressive tax programs.
And this property is in the opportunity zone also, which is another tremendous benefit. So
I just want to make sure that it's very clear, the option of leaving it as it is is not the option that's okay. And I think, you know, this listing of the property is fine. If the person doesn't want to longer carry through their investment, okay. But,
100%.
you know, allowing it to remain in neglect during that process is not good for our community because it is a gateway property. I mean, to your point, Robbie, it's like every time you're bringing somebody downtown, we've made tens of millions of dollars worth of investment. And I think it's very important that that we follow what we've approved and what we've said. So with that, I'd like to make a motion. We engage with the DIB and the CRA boards and financing, including Nevins with engaging with the owner currently. I would like nothing more than to see them self-mitigate. But I think we need to be prepared, since it's been 2 years, that it may take our investment in order to see this building saved.
I'll second the motion.
Any discussion? Are we dropping the idea of a historic preservation district?
No,
It's a second motion.
That's the second motion, okay. Any discussion related to this motion?
Just want to, so we're going to ask DIB and CRA
Yes.
to pay the note, but we're willing to put the money up front out of the general fund to start.
No, we'd use a loan. So that those would be pledged to do a loan specifically for this property, which my understanding is interest costs are also recoupable in that process as well. Is that correct?
Our cost.
Yes, our cost, including interest,
So
is recoupable.
who's pledging the money?
CRA, DIB is who we'd be asking to share
But through a bond by the city.
through a bond by the city. We have to institute that.
Okay, any other discussion?
Madam Clerk, would you mind just stating the motion that you understand so that all the staff are on crystal clear of what we're doing? Thank you.
Right now, the motion is that we are requesting to send a letter to the CRA and DIB asking for financing of the repair and mitigation of the PC Grammar School building.
Thank you, ma'am.
Just to make it clear, we will research the interest cost. I believe that it would be in the overall definition of cost, but we've just never done it before. So I just wanted you to know that that's a goal, but not a certainty.
At the very minimum,
On the
principle.
interest.
The
Oh,
principle
certainly
is covered.
Yeah, the financing will be a whole separate thing. This is not about the financing. This is just their pledging support for the financing, right?
Oh, yes, the financing would then come back
Right.
for final approval once it's all worked out.
Right.
Any other discussion? Call the roll.
Commissioner Granger?
Yes.
Commissioner Street?
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes?
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas?
Yes.
Mayor Branch?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Historic preservation.
I'd like to make a motion that we staff draft a ordinance policy on historic buildings. What those parameters are, I'll assume they'll work with each one of us to kind of come to the language that makes the most sense.
Perfect. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Call the roll.
Commissioner Granger?
Yes.
Commissioner Street?
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes?
Yeah.
Commissioner Lucas?
Yes.
Mayor Branch?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, city attorney, we are on item 11A.
I have item 11A, and this is a report concerning opioid litigation. A few years ago, the City Commission authorized Mr. Cliff Higbee to represent the city, and we assist, but represent the city as it relates to opioid litigation. A lot of class action lawsuits were taking place all throughout the country. The city was authorized, the city manager was authorized to sign settlement agreements as that was defined in that original authorization. What we have here is a settlement agreement with the Slacker. It's called the Slacker release, which we felt we needed to bring specifically to the board for approval, and we recommend approval of it. We're using this occasion to give you a short report on where we are on the different litigation matters. But as you've seen in the newspapers, states and other entities have recovered millions of dollars from the opioid industry, including the state of Florida. Panama, and the money is typically earmarked for purposes to address the problems that were created by the opioid abuse. The city has already received $171,000. We anticipate receiving approximately another $655,000. The money cannot be spent and has not been spent until there is a plan developed. The Panama City Police Department is working on that. I believe that Bay County, for example, is utilizing its recovery to construct a wing onto its jail or at off of Nehi Road that deals with rehabilitation and of drug problems of people that are in jail because of that. So our recommendation is to hear a report, but then to approve the signing of the settlement that's there in your packet.
You said you want to.
No.
Motion to hear the report.
I'm sorry. No. I did not word that correctly. You've already heard the report. But the motion is to authorize the settlement.
Motion to approve. All right, so is that a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Any discussion?
Does this include the plan, or is the plan
No,
coming to
the
us?
plan will come back later.
So this is just give me the money vote, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Give me the money, though. Show me. Any other discussion?
Yeah, that's what show me the money.
Call the roll.
Commissioner Granger?
Yes.
Commissioner Street?
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes?
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas?
Yes.
Mayor Branch?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Show me the money.
All right, item 11B is the former item 9I that was pulled off of consent, and its consideration to approve 2 infill program houses. As background information, the Housing and Community Services Department has reviewed and approved 2 building projects as part of the infill program, which provides closing costs and down payments for qualified buyers. This will bring the department's total of infill projects approved by the commission to 29. The 2 building projects being considered today are at 609 Elm Avenue, Parcel 3, Parcel ID 22726-020-000. The contractor is Southwest Innovations Construction with a value of the lot at $15,000 and the cost of the home not to exceed $225,000. Parcel 2 is also at 609 Elm Avenue, Parcel ID 22726-010-000. The contractor is also Southwest Innovations Construction Incorporated. Value of the lot is at $15,000 and the cost of the home is not to exceed $175,000. Staff request through the Director of the Housing and Community Services Department is that the Commission approve this agenda item and then authorize the mayor to execute all necessary documents for the 2 separate infill program building projects listed above. I'll just ask, I did have some conversation with Commissioner Hughes, who indicated his support for this, but also had some questions for staff, particularly the city attorney, regarding the contracts. Mr. Mayor?
Yes, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
You can have it.
Oh, thank you.
Discussion.
No.
Oh, I didn't know. I'll stop here.
I was pointing down there, sir.
Thank you. I intend to vote yes for this. Sheila, I just want you to know that. Although I do have some concerns. 100% I'm into affordable housing, and we need it. It's very hard to accomplish that. Under this program, it's the only program that I've in my short tenure here that I've noticed that we do not get appraisals for the value of the land. We use the property appraiser's website on the day that we are giving the lot over. And that's the absolute worst thing that we can do. We'd be the only body in Bay County that uses that website for value from an actual market value. So my first question is why do we do that? And only on this one. But more importantly, this contract that we have, the only person that can lose is Panama City. Okay? And the only person, the person that has the absolute zero skin in the game and can win the best is the contractor. Here's what happens. We give him the dirt after we've put a number on it, not through an appraisal. The buyer's qualified, and all of this is exactly right how it ought to work. Buyer gets qualified, we give the dirt to the contractor, he goes and gets his loan, because that's how it has to happen. At the end of the deal doesn't close, and that happens, folks. I've had them get up from the closing table and not close. And in this contract, well, the memorandum says that we will purchase the property. The contract says that we'll have 60 days to provide another buyer to that contractor so that we can close the deal. Okay, so automatically our memorandum and our contract don't meet. But at the end of the 60 days, if we haven't found that person, the city's going to buy that property back. Now go with me here. Would you mind giving me slide 1, please? Go with me here. And I use $200,000 as a value, and that's $10,000 for the lot and $190 for the building. Okay? If I'm purchasing the lot, if I'm purchasing this as the city, I have very little closing costs. By the way, I cut me out of the deal on that one, cut us, the realtors out of the deal on that one, bought it straight from the contractor. Now, we have $200,000 in the deal. We have a note and a mortgage on a piece of property that we're going to take back that we just paid for. We gave it for free and we just paid for it back. Okay? That's the first problem. Then, notice that we're into this for we're into it for $122. Now, we're going to take it back. And in my conversation, one of the comments was, well, we could take it and put it on the rental program. We got some issues with that. We don't need to be in the property management business. Okay, so let's just say we're going to sell it. It's a brand new house. My experience is in Panama City, if you build a brand new house and price it right, it will sell. So if you go to slide 2, please. If we sell it, we're going to have to engage a realtor. We're going to lose $8,000 right out of the bat, plus the $10,000 that we paid for the lot. We bought it back, so we're $18,000 in the hole. Tell me how that's a good idea for our taxpayers, and that's my concern. Now, the answer that I get is, well, it's never happened before. And you're right, it hasn't. And I can promise you this, in my world, when there's a problem, the first thing the person does is they go look in the contract and they find out who's wrong and how can I blame it on them. And we're all sitting up here, so they're going to blame it on. That's a lot of money to lose, and the only way that that's going to happen is there's no other route to us not being in the loss if that were to happen, okay, in the negative.
But where would that money be in the...
We change it. Here's what we do. We don't buy it back. Okay? Or we go ahead and list it. Let's let the builder, we list it for the builder. Why do we need to buy it back? This is the similar thing to when we're doing a deal and we're selling something and they don't do right, and we're going to buy it back if they haven't done what they're supposed to in 2 years, and we give them 5%.
Does that potentially reward a contractor like, oh, the deal fell through, now I can put it on the market?
Okay. Now here's another one. The contractor gets the lot for free at $10,000, and he's built in profit in his build, so he's making double profit when he sells, and we are paying twice for the lot, and we're paying for a lot that we give him if we have to buy it back. It is so opposite.
So when you get into these housing things, because this money isn't coming out of the general fund, it's coming out of money specifically reserved for housing that's usually federal dollars, am I right, Sheila? Yes, she's shaking her head yes. So usually what that means is that there's all kinds of crazy rules that come with that. And when I say crazy, I mean just wild stuff that you as an individual would never do. But in order to use the money, you got to do that. So I hear you. I agree with some of the things you're saying.
It can't be crazy to give something for free and pay for it to buy it back. That doesn't make sense to me at all.
But is that a requirement by the programs, I guess is the question. Sheila, do you mind coming and talking?
And is it a requirement to use the property appraiser's website?
I think it's just part of our infill program that was built. I'm not sure.
And again, I'm for the infill program.
We can't change it. I mean, like, look.
But it's got to be, a meeting of the minds is where everybody feels like that they've found equality.
Commissioner Hughes,
yes,
I've dabbled in real estate, not done near as much as you have, but I did something similar when I first came on board. I was like, why is this happening? This doesn't make sense. Like, what is going on here? And then you find that Sheila has to follow all of these different rules that are imposed by the state and by the feds, which a lot of them because they're created by the government, they don't make any sense. But again, a lot of the money that comes out of this program is not out of the general fund, and it's not out of the citizens of the cities, like their ad valorem taxes. It doesn't
Does that
come out
make
that
it
much.
right though?
I didn't say it does. All I'm saying is that when you're looking at a situation and you're like, this shouldn't happen or this shouldn't happen, it's quite possibly this board can't fix it if we're going to continue to do this type of thing.
I don't know that that is this particular.
Ms. Ware, is that the case?
Yeah.
I'm just saying in general.
Okay, let's address the lot situation, the 15,000. We don't go by strictly the property appraiser's value. We look at what we have in the lot. So
That's what it says here, is property
It's
appraiser.
property appraiser or the amount that the city has in the lot. Because the lot was purchased or it may have been donated. I'm not sure on these particular lots. I can't remember how we actually got them. So we look at an average on what it's going to cost the city. Did we have to do a survey on this property? Did we have to get the lot cleared? Any investment that we have in it, we recoup that back from the builder. So that's how we arrive at, like with these lots, it's 15,000. We haven't done an appraisal on every one of these lots, but the average cost in that area is going to be 15,000 for those lots.
Now, can you just give your name and title for this?
Oh, Sheila Ware, Housing and Community Services
Right.
Director.
And duly noted, and with all due respect, I would say that 15,000 is low for that area.
But you have to remember, what we're trying to do is promote homeownership for this family. We get that 15 back, so it's of no cost to the program. We receive that 15,000 back from that builder when that house is completed.
Exactly.
And that money goes back in the program to assist another client.
Okay, but when it doesn't, that's my concern is not when it doesn't, when it goes bad, and I know you're going to say it's never
Right.
gone bad, Robbie.
I know it hasn't, but and I know where you're getting at, but that's just, I mean, we have the 15, we have the mortgage on the lot. So even if it does go bad, we will get that money back. There's a lien on the property.
There's a lien on the property, but we're buying something at retail and trying to sell it at retail. That doesn't work. The lot that you're hanging on to, we're giving that with a value of 15, and when we buy it back, we're buying it back at 15.
To clarify maybe what Robbie's asking, is this a state requirement on the buying back the entire construction of the, so let's say somebody doesn't purchase at the end.
Yes.
The city right now in our infill program is responsible to purchase that back. My understanding, that's just a policy we created. as a
Exactly.
board. That is something that we can change
Exactly.
if we want to change. So that is not something that's related to a state.
Right,
regulation.
we could change that and say that is just what was designed.
And it's meant, it was meant originally in its intent, and I'm not saying this is the valid stance and what the board supports now, but the intent was to reduce the risk in developing in these specific areas. And so and to encourage people to go through the infill program.
I think the contractor should have more role in this if it doesn't close. It's their construction loan. They own the dirt that we gave to them. They're able to walk away with us writing them a check if nobody closes.
Well, I would agree with you as long as it's the reason of the contractor. Sometimes people find themselves in situations where, remember, like one of the issues that I first had when I first came in was I had somebody who was on a program similar to this. It wasn't an infill. It was a already established home. They were renting it.
NSP.
Yes, NSP. So they were renting the house through NSP, but they were going to buy the house. He quit his job. A bank ain't going to give you a loan if you don't have a job, right? And Sheila had told him over and over and over, don't quit your job, like keep your job. But the person had quit their job. And so because of that, a bank said, well, your timer starts over now, right? And so it was no fault of the city. It was no fault. In this case, it would be no fault of the construction.
It doesn't matter.
The contractor.
Contractor is the one that gets.
So,
Yes.
can I make a
Can we push all this to a virtual meeting? Like,
Well, that was what I
this
was
is going to be
next.
2 more hours.
What I really wanted to do was make this in a workshop.
Yes.
I want to let Sheila know that I'm voting for this. I 100% believe in affordable housing. I believe in the program.
Yeah.
I just think that we ought to make it so that the city is in a better position if we have to take something back, to be fair.
But if we took it back, where would those monies go?
If we took the city,
Let's say we find ourselves in a situation where the city.
we would offer this property to another client.
But understood, but let's say we can't, for some reason, I know you have people lined up, right?
Yeah.
I know this, but like, let's say we just couldn't find somebody, it wasn't acceptable to them or what have you, right? And we had to take the money back. Where would that money go? What cost center would it go into?
It would go into the housing cost center.
Okay, is that in a general fund at all?
No, it's not in general fund.
Okay, because it's funded through
Right,
grants and
right.
other things through, so, okay.
And on this particular property, we subdivided this, so we have 3 lots
Yes,
instead of just one.
Yeah, I saw that.
So in the spirit of moving this conversation to the workshop as has been expressed, Mr. Mayor, I call the question.
All right.
Yeah.
So we have a first and a second already. We're in discussion, correct? Motion to accept.
We
Have
have,
to actually vote on the call to question, I believe.
Have we not called the question yet? Okay, do we have a motion?
Yes,
Do we have a motion? Who
Do we have a motion?
Motion to get the discussion.
to end the discussion.
End the discussion.
Because I asked
And
for a
move
call to question.
So
But
that's
if we're going to agree to end the discussion, I'll withdraw that and let's just
Doesn't
vote.
require a second.
Okay, so now we're calling the roll. So
And Mr. Mayor, a call to question does not require a second.
And who motioned?
if you withdraw your motion, then there's no motion to
She
vote
motioned
on.
to vote.
It was a call to question.
Call the question.
Vote. Because we are having discussion
So
now
I
that's
only had
outside.
one more thing to say, but that was fine. We're fine. We'll move it to the virtual workshop. We'll move on.
There you go.
So, like,
please call
We
the
do
roll.
need to
Commissioner Granger?
authorize Alan to sign this out.
Yeah.
Call the roll.
Commissioner Granger?
Can we restate the motion?
What's the motion?
We're approving.
we're moving through
To
this.
approve to
It's
infill.
the-
I've already been in a situation once where I voted on something I didn't hear.
Infield project.
The motion, I believe, is to, for the commission to approve and authorize the mayor to execute all necessary documents for the 2 separate infill program building projects that are listed in your memorandum.
Yes.
Yes.
Commissioner Street?
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes?
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas?
Yes,
Mayor Branch?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
thank you.
And do we need a motion to put this on a virtual, or do we just bring it up at the next virtual meeting?
The mayor and I usually determine those, so we're happy to do it. It won't be the next one. The next one's going to be the downtown marina money, but we'll do it in very near future, sir. Yep.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
12A.
Oh, sorry. Notice of term expirations on the Downtown Improvement Board. The Downtown Improvement Board has 3 positions for 3-year terms that expire on September 12th, 2028. Their current board members, Jacob Sostheim, Leslie Todd, and Chantel World, have expressed an interest in retaining their positions on the board. The city clerk has received 1 additional application from Jenny Kelly, who is in the process of interviews. The mayor appoints members of the 7-member board with the concurrence of the city commission. Board members serve 3-year terms and are subject to term limitations. None of the current members are subject to any term limitations. So, Mayor, if it's your pleasure, you can appoint these or wait for new applicants.
Yeah, I'd like to appoint these 3.
The 3 remaining on the board.
Jacob Solstein, Leslie Todd, and Chantel World.
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Call the roll.
Commissioner Granger?
Yes.
Commissioner Street?
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes?
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas?
Yes.
Mayor Branch?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Item 13A is consideration of resolution number 202500909.4, adopting the City of Panama City Watershed Master Plan. Relevant background information is included in your packet. Staff recommendation through the Director of Development Services, excuse me, is that the City Commission approve this ordinance. Goodness gracious, I apologize. This resolution, rather, 2025009.4, adopting the Watershed Master Plan. Mr. Mayor?
Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Whoa.
Robbie can have it.
So Josh to Robbie.
I give it to Robbie.
Any discussion? Call the roll.
Commissioner Granger?
Yes.
Commissioner Street?
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes?
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas?
Yes.
Mayor Branch?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
like to read the resolution 2025-0909.4, a resolution of the City Commission of the city adopting the city's 2025 watershed master plan, providing for implementation, providing an effective date.
Item 13B is consideration, approval, and authorization for the mayor to sign Resolution 2025-0909.5, authorizing the grant application by the City of Panama City under the fiscal year 2025 Resilient Florida Program grant from the state of Florida through the Department of Environmental Protection for the city to perform a comprehensive stormwater management plan. Relevant background information is included in your packet. Staff recommendation through the city engineer and the director of public works is that the commission approve this resolution.
Motion to approve. Oh, second.
All right. Josh DeGranger, any discussion? Please call the roll.
Commissioner Granger?
Yes.
Commissioner Street?
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes?
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas?
Yes.
Mayor Branch?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Resolution number 2025-0909.5, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Panama City authorizing the grant application by the city under FY 2025 Resilient Florida Program grant from the state of Florida through the Department of Environmental Protection for the City of Panama City to perform a comprehensive stormwater management plan, and authorizing the city manager and authorizing the grants division or designee to submit the application and the city manager to execute and implement all other documents associated with the implementation and execution of the grant, provided an effective date.
Item 13C is discussion and review of options for years of service awards for city employees. As background information, per the request of the City Commission on June 24th of 2025, options related to city employees' years of service awards are being presented with recommendation for a path forward. Current practices as it relates to service awards are attached to the memos of August 28, 2025. In summary, city employees currently receive a certificate on their 5, 10, and 15-year anniversaries with a plaque presented at commission meetings every 5 years commencing on year 20. Review of other municipalities reveals the majority either utilize a plaque, a pin, or a coin system to recognize years of service to their employees. Staff recommendations of the Director of Human Resources is that the addition of a one-year certificate and continuous certificates at 5, 10, and 15 years become the practice, and then recommend providing a coin or a pin every 5 years commencing at years 20 to be presented at a commission meeting or by the director or chief during a departmental meeting at the desire of the team member. This would maintain a budget-neutral option to recognize the long-serving time of employees. I'll just state kind of after we presented this item, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, I had some additional conversations with Ms. Lewis and Mr. Jones and Ms. Waldron. I think the desire was, and I think staff would be supportive of this, is actually move all of the recognitions, maybe to say like the last Friday of the month at the Rotunda, and it would be, myself and the respective department head and the mayor in a less formal city commission meeting, and staff would support that recommendation as well. In the event that an employee didn't want to recognize that or didn't want to be a part of something more formal in the Rotunda, myself or Ms. Waldron or Mr. Jones could go with the respective department head and recognize them out in the field to some degree. So I think the big thing is moving forward with the change in how we recognize them and then moving them away from this meeting. I think that's what we would want direction from on the commission. Staff recommends that.
Totally. I'll start the discussion of, I appreciate this, and it came from a genesis of, or origin of, when we give awards or things to staff, and even in my own business, I'm always looking at what they see as valuable. And plaque, they may really want a plaque or a pen, but I'm always up for changing an award system to the people who receive the award that they actually value it, not what we think they value. And so I appreciate the hard work and the research that went into this. I'm very supportive of any of these changes.
Move we approve.
Okay, so we have a motion to second. We have a second. Any discussion?
I just want to say, I thought it was interesting today that you said one of the reasons you thought about the Rotunda was you're the new mayor, and this guy's been there for 40 years, and his favorite mayor may have been three mayors ago. And I thought that was very telling to say, the staff, we're in and out. Who do they like? I don't know. So I think it is important to keep it more quaint in City Hall because it's with their coworkers, their peers. And so I support that idea.
Yeah, it's for them and about them, so. they should-
Exactly, exactly.
And the mayor has said repeatedly, he goes, if they would rather one of the commissioners do it, he goes, man,
Right.
no hurt feelings here at all.
Right, right.
Absolutely. Any other discussion? Please call the roll.
Commissioner Granger?
Yes.
Commissioner Street?
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes?
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas?
Yes.
Mayor Branch?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
All right, item 13 is the discussion of proclamations, kind of somewhat, related but very different. These have historically been under the very beginning of the agenda with proclamations, awards, and announcements. I know that, Mayor, you have suggested maybe moving proclamations off of the official business meeting of the commission as well. I know some of your colleagues would like them to stay a part of it. I think it would be good for it to be consistent. So staff is just seeking direction from the commission.
Yeah, for me, again, it's the recipient of the award. What do they like? And so, I don't mind having them here when we're all here gathered. I see tax dollars going, and so I'd much rather see an intimate rotunda, less staff, all the proclamations at once. But again, it's about the recipient of the proclamation. What do they want to see? So I'm not necessarily in favor of like moving all of them. You still have kind of the option of bringing them here if someone wants the pageantry of being at the city meeting. But some people, I don't know if they really want to be here to receive. They're kind of like, what am I doing up here in front of all these people?
So maybe the default is in the rotunda unless somebody wants to bring it forward. And I would assume that could be any of us.
Yeah, I mean, we gave a proclamation in the rotunda 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. I've done one proclamation, or a couple, mostly around Salty Dog Mayor.
The best mayor we have.
Important city business.
Stiff competition.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Is that do we need a motion?
I think just to kind of memorialize it, that basically there is flexibility that, we would push for the rotunda, potentially combining it with and I'm suggesting the last Friday of every month for the awards and for employees and then this, but if they want, or if one of the commissioners would like to actually do it this meeting, that would be okay as well. So we would remove this section 5 and just make it only community announcements. Starting with the next meeting, we would only add back in proclamations on a case-by-case basis. That would be my understanding.
My motion to approve that.
I second that.
Any discussion? Call the roll.
Commissioner Granger? Oh, he stepped out. Commissioner Street?
On, actually.
Commissioner Hughes?
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas?
Yes.
Mayor Branch?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
All right, item number 13E. I know that y'all received, I think all of you got a physical copy, and then I did as well, and then I also scanned and circulated it a second time. There was a letter that was received from someone basically stating that the gateway overlay is ancient and obsolete, and cities are getting rid of them. And we did a lot of research. There was only one city that we ever found. I think the mayor and I had that conversation. So I'm basically requesting kind of direction and approval from the commission today to basically respond to that letter stating that this commission disagrees and still is committed to the gateway overlay. That would be the first item. And then the second item is, I was probably just pause and address that one first. So.
I'm personally in strong support as being in a district that's greatly benefited from this. I can tell you that we've expanded it inside of the St. Andrews area, and it's been well received by both residents and commercial property owners. If anything, I think there's probably some gaps that need to be addressed. Like, we've got landscaping requirements, but there's really no requirement to maintain that landscaping. And so what we see with some of our corporate partners, and we all know corporations are the greatest partners all the time that we could get. They'll install it, and then they'll just let it die or won't maintain it, and they'll grow with weeds, and it'll just kind of just go off to the wayside. So maybe there's a way to implement some policy in regards to that. Now, I am sensitive also to maybe some nuanced needs as they may come up, but overall, strong supporter of the gateway overlays.
And I think that people in the overlays that are non-compliant, we should give them, for example, to your point, you can put the plants in, but you don't irrigate it. Well, part of that should be that you have to irrigate it. And you get 12 months to irrigate, and after that, whatever. But Overlays work because everybody has, everybody working towards the same purpose, you know. and Unified purpose, right. Now, are there exceptions to there's always an exception to the rule, but overall, there's going to be minimal. Drive down Peachtree Street in Midtown Atlanta. There's green everywhere, and there's buildings everywhere. It's because they have irrigation, they have landscape requirements, and they enforce. We can do the same thing.
I'm supportive of it as well.
So I do support the gateway overlay intentions. I think one point in the letter, though, was that they haven't spurred the development that we were looking for along some of the corridors that are labeled gateway. And I do think that we should address those possibilities for development and economic development on a case-by-case basis as they come to us in the gateway area. I don't want to see, what this gateway ordinance is intended to preclude. But I do want to support economic development and businesses that want to come and how they can work to be a part of what it is that we're seeking to do.
And I want to add, I had an email from a person rather upset that previous years ago that they were stopped from doing a business because it kind of seemed like it was a fleet. And I just want to encourage staff that when they say no and they bump into a policy, that potentially elected officials are willing to change the policy. And so feel free to bubble those up and those no's up to us and say, hey, is this something you would support? And so that we don't get blamed years later for policy.
Stay tuned in about 60 seconds, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, exactly.
So, do you need a motion?
I think
or is
so,
that good?
yes, because I'm going to
I'll
speak
motion
on behalf of y'all.
to continue and strengthen and modify in such a way that gateways continue to be good for overall growth.
Second.
Any discussion? Call the roll.
Commissioner Street?
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes?
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas?
Yes.
Mayor Branch?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
All right, continuation of the same item. So you have a copy that Mr. Fuller, Development Services Director, passed out, Section 104-66, the Gateway Overlay, formerly known as the Tourist Corridor. So what I would point out is that he and I were talking, and no real decision today necessarily, but as we were talking, it's our belief that staff should work with the elected officials to make some modifications to this ordinance and maybe be a little bit more flexible. Again, this is just a brief conversation, only the opinion of myself and Mr. Fuller, but we felt like there were a few items here that maybe would help spur that development, that maybe we have been too restrictive in the past. Bail bond agencies, bottle clubs, check cashing, dispatch office, that's the one that you referred to, Mr. Mayor, where someone said, no, that was years before Mr. Fuller, though, and myself. Window tinting. So what we would like, and again, no voting on this particular today, although the next item is impacted by this, is we would like to spend the next maybe month working with each of you and look at what potential easements or kind of backing off of some of this and maybe lessening the grip on some of the restrictions, and then bring a revised ordinance to y'all to consider that will maybe help spur some more of that development and provide more flexibility in the gateway overlay. Obviously there are some things that we wouldn't want to see, that are restricted, and so we just want to talk through that. But would love for y'all to take this that we handed out today, make some notes on it, and over the next couple of weeks, we'll speak about it in our weekly one-on-ones. But that kind of moves us right into item number 13F, which is consideration to accept an unsolicited offer from Dawn N. Blue Brown for the purchase of parcel ID 17132-000-000 located at 920 MLK Boulevard for the sum of $145,000. A little bit of background, I was authorized by the commission about a year ago to sell this property by any means that I determined necessary. And we also spoke about the time that Commissioner Lucas and I were going to work with the homeowner, or property owner rather, immediately to the south of this property on MLK Boulevard, where he had about 0.1 or a tenth of an acre. And then below that was the city owned lot of 0.1 acres. And so we were trying to work with him to flip it so that we could then take our 0.1 and add it to that one so that it was almost like a third of an acre and larger in size. We worked with him and it just hasn't moved quick enough. And I know that, that building continues to sit there unused. And so it's my opinion, and I did talk with Commissioner Lucas, we should just move this forward. So again, we did receive an offer from Ms. Blue Brown. She's the one that spoke earlier during audience participation. It is her desire to relocate her bail bonds business to this building. And so we would obviously need a revision or an exception to the gateway overlay to allow this. My recommendation is that we do authorize this. And just for background information, we did receive an appraisal about a year ago it came back 160. Then we got another appraisal about a month ago when we were ready to bring this back, and it was for 140. So I would recommend that y'all authorize us to sell it to her for 145, forgo the auction process, and then I'll probably work with Mr. Zimmerman, put in like a 90-day due diligence to give us, or maybe 60 days, give us time to see if we can amend or revise or work through some type of exception to the gateway overlay, so that if we all do that, then she can move forward with her plans, because she wouldn't want to move forward and close on this property if she's not allowed to do a bail bond business in it.
Why can't we make that exception today?
That's a good question. I don't know, Mr. Zimmerman, perhaps you can. You are the commissioner.
First question before that is, have we offered this, well, we can't now, but we offered this to the public to bid on as well as unsolicited?
No, I mean, I could go, what I would do is,
now,
I could do an auction if you wanted it to open it up like that, so.
We don't, have you published it so that anybody else had an opportunity to make an offer unsolicited like she did, but now we can't because it's a published number? Was that offered before?
Well, no, sir, because then it wouldn't be unsolicited offer.
Unsolicited offer comes from her.
Right.
Did we offer to the public, not open it up, we don't tell the public what it is, or tell us what it is, did we offer it to the public to make an offer because there's a city piece of property unsolicited that's not for sale?
I think it was.
So
No.
no, that wasn't offered. And what happened was.
It was, sorry, go ahead, Commissioner.
I was going to say, a year ago, she sent a letter of interest.
Okay.
And that's what spurred the first appraisal.
Okay.
And then there was the, let's make it a bigger piece of property.
Okay.
And then, she's come back and said a year later, hey, I still want this. Hey, why don't I put money on the table? Let's talk about it. And so that's where we are now.
Okay.
And as you have said, there is a number on the table. So this is a viable option for taking a piece of property that has been vacant for a while and making it a viable use.
Okay.
Would also point out that her current business is located in the far right of this corner in that building to the white. So we're not asking for a new bail bonds business, new to the corridor, just a move from a leasing situation to an ownership
Well,
situation.
then why do we have to make an exception if it's already there?
Because it's a gateway.
Because it's technically not in the gateway
Technically,
right
yeah,
now.
technically she's not in the gateway about what.
You mean on the other
Yeah,
side of the
just
road?
like a small.
No,
Yeah, but I mean, I know, but.
no,
what-
right there.
Right. But if there's already a bail bondsman company there, it's outside.
Can we grant
I got you, okay.
can we grant an exception based upon the fact that this is an existing business looking to relocate 200 yards? Is that an available option to us that would not create other problems?
You're probably asking the attorney and not me, right? Darn it.
Another possibility. So if this building was expanded and the bail bonds office wasn't on the roadside, is that also like if it was a duplex and you had one of these businesses not on the road frontage, is that a possibility?
If, sure, but I'll say sure, just kind of offhand, but the real issue is the city commission interested in selling the property, number one,
Yes.
at this
Yes.
price?
Yeah.
The second is the city interested in staff exploring how there could be a bail bondsman business out on this piece of property that you're selling? Whether it's an expansion of existing business, whether it's an exception, or whether it's an amendment in which it'll probably require a text change to the existing gateway overlay. not a long process, but that it may be that. So before we kind of went down the trail of the intended use, we wanted to make sure that this is what you'd want. So I would suggest we enter into a purchase agreement. You authorize that with a long enough due diligence period, because the buyer may not want to buy this property unless she can use it for what she wants to use it for. So with a long enough, it'd probably be 60 days, might be tight. 90 should give us plenty, but we'd work hard and we might be able to figure it out in 2 weeks if it's just an expansion of an existing use. So I think all those would be looked at if that was your desire.
So if we if we voted today to say make an exception to it, it passed, she would still have to wait until a tax change was made to the overlay?
Yeah, I would recommend you not make an exception to it today. I would recommend that you say, we would be interested in allowing, where we would like this use to be allowed. Staff, tell us how we can do that.
How about we just write an offer subject to that the tax change being made to allow that use?
Or how about we just say what the attorney said?
Yeah, it would be, I think we're saying the same thing, Commissioner.
So two things. I just want to make sure that I'm clear so that someone doesn't think like if we get too far down one way that I'm like trying to pull it back. I do not want us to problem solve. This is me personally through the variance process. The reason why is it just goes to the planning board and we will never have a say in that again.
Right.
For any other future uses.
Exactly.
So whatever you bring back doesn't need to follow the variance process. And then I would prefer we problem solve it the way like we did between Jenna and I, where the CRA was a part of solving that problem. So like looking at it from a district perspective. Example is the fencing, in most of the gateway corridors, vinyl black chain link fencing is allowed, with the exception of the CRA areas where it is still required to have a more stringent fencing area. So maybe there's a way for us to be a little more nuanced so that we're just not removing a blanket to everywhere.
And along that lines, we did receive a letter from Ms. Dawn Blue Brown this morning referencing that her purchase price suggestion she wasn't aware that there was a gateway overlay, which will require additional expenses.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'd like to see us give staff the leeway to move forward to negotiate with her for the purchase of this property, and giving the considerations that the attorney has said. But we do have an offer, but that offer was not made with the understanding that there would be more city or requirements to upgrade that particular
So
building.
would you be giving them authority to relax some of those additional cost barriers?
Mhm.
Okay.
Or as, I think it was you who said, work with the CRA to provide incentives as well.
That's what I would prefer.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what we don't want to do is create an issue where we're blanketly granting exemptions and then all of a sudden weakening the areas where we need.
Exactly.
So.
Okay, so I believe what we have is a contract to sell for $145,000. There's an expressed intention by the city commission to work toward allowing the requested use. There will be a due diligence period of sufficient length to allow the buyer to either not close if this intended use can't be accomplished, or the permission, or if it can't be accomplished and the CRA still would like to assist in the purchase. I mean, it'll just give us more time to come together during this due diligence period. And then if for some reason it doesn't close, staff will come back. I'm sure the buyer would come back and request further assistance.
Is there a way to, that piece, the 1/10 of an acre that the guy owns in between, have we been able to talk to him?
We have. I mean, we've asked him several times and he seems to indicate support, and then
Like to get rid of?
Well, I know he wants to keep it. He just wants to flip.
He's amenable to the property flip. However, the piece he's on is preferable because the other piece has drainage and so forth.
Yeah.
So.
Our piece does. Our piece, the other city piece? Yeah, okay.
Yes.
And I want to make sure I answered your question, Commissioner Hughes. So typically what we will do is when I receive an unsolicited offer, I'll bring it here and let the commission kind of give direction. And they'll either, I've seen them, move ahead with that unsolicited offer, which seems like we're going to do today. Or I've also seen, no, let's just go and offer it. If I do that, then I would put it up for auction.
Okay, I would,
Yeah.
and I intend to bring some framework for unsolicited offers so that we follow the same path. Because I'm the only one up here that has been drug through the mud on how to do this. And I think it's fair though, that if somebody unsoliciting makes an offer to our properties, the entire the citizens have the right to make an offer on as well. But if we post the number, we can't do that. So you got to keep that number down. Okay, you got to keep it closed up. For example, when I met with Nevin and Mark McQueen, they immediately said, do not show me the offer. Immediately said, you hold on to that, and we're going to go and see if the commission even wants to sell this piece of property. And they said yes. So they gave the citizens 2 weeks opportunity to make an offer on that piece of property. No one else did, okay? To me, that's the fair practice because if you put the number out there, you've just posted the number. Now, if the current buyer that's made the proposal, you're gonna ask them to bid against themselves to go up because now all they got to do is $1 more. Somebody else does and they win. Does that make sense?
It does. I guess I'm not following how you would solicit other people to make unsolicited offers.
From the dais, you said.
So if they're not watching the meeting, then they're just out of luck. If they don't know, okay.
Okay, or if they're not watching it, but you're right, but they are given the opportunity from the dais, we announced we've got an unsolicited offer, okay? We didn't ask for the offer. Now, it's different if we're asking for the offer. And then over a 2 week period, 3 week period, whatever it is, other offers are available. That doesn't mean that they're any going to come in. It just means that the citizens of Panama City, or anybody, has the right to make an offer on publicly owned land. That's it.
Got it.
And we don't tell the public what that number is. That's not fair to the person that's made the original. Just my opinion.
Bless you.
No,
If we're ready, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to follow the steps as outlined by the attorney, and if you'll restate those so we all know what we're voting on. To proceed forward with purchasing this property or selling this property.
The motion is to accept the offer as presented from Ms. Blue Brown and authorize the chairman to sign a contract for $145,000 purchase price with the understanding that the due diligence period will be in the contract, which would allow the buyer to not close. And if the use of the property cannot be for a bail bondsman, it'd be her option. But if for some, also the city commission expressed an interest in having this property used for that and directed staff to work toward getting a permission to use it for a bail bondsman business.
And that includes CRA involvement?
And include the CRA. Yes, thank you.
Point of clarification, you said chairman. Did you mean mayor or city manager? Because there's no really chairman in this role.
Yeah, I said mayor, you just misunderstood.
Okay.
Chairman sounds like mayor sometimes.
Good, got it.
So mayor, not city manager?
Yeah.
Right.
So is that your motion?
That's your motion?
Yes.
Okay, is there a second? Any discussion? Call the roll.
Commissioner Street?
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes?
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas?
Yes.
Mayor Branch?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
All right, item number 13G, formerly item 6E, is a discussion on ordinance 3282, which is an ordinance that would amend section 104.33.E.8, permitted encroachments of the ULDC. As background information, the ordinance number 3282 that was proposed will amend the section referenced concerning permitted encroachments in the downtown district. This proposed ordinance coordinates with and helps preserve the streetscape project on Harrison Avenue. The ordinance provides permitted encroachments in the Harrison Avenue right-of-way provides that permitted encroachments in the Harrison Avenue right-of-way will be limited to cantilevered canopies and balconies so that support columns do not impact the streetscapes and underground utilities. Galleries such as column-supported structures and stoops will be permissible on all other streets in the downtown district except for along Harrison Avenue. The ordinance also amends references to sidewalk cafes so that it's consistent with Section 105-14 concerning outdoor dining. This item was previously reviewed by the Planning Board on August 11th. The Planning Board did recommend approval unanimously, and staff concurs. You have the following documents enclosed. Again, today is just the time of discussion, and the genesis of this again was to, to seek to protect our, $20 million investment in the streetscapes in downtown Panama City. It kind of came about as part of the HRP, one of those projects. But on phase one, we not only have the water lines that are on the perimeters, you also have the sewer lines that are relocated to that. Phase one from 4th to Governor Street also has the soil cell system and the soil cells along that way. Plus there are ADA considerations. It's 5 foot for most phases, for most parts of phase one. But phase two, there's a few areas where it is kind of squeezed a little bit tighter. So maintaining the walkability and the pedestrian right-of-way, protecting our underground infrastructure, and that was the genesis of this, but understand that the mayor and the commission would like to discuss this some. Mr. Mayor?
Yes, I'm in favor of posts, and there's already stipulations of ADA and Florida Building Code. These buildings aren't meant to be cantilevering things off of. They weren't designed that way, and it just further makes them tougher to survive hurricanes. And every other city that we love has main streets that have posts in the sidewalks, and they're a little bit of a pain. And so I'd love to see staff come back with an ordinance that has follows, Winter Garden, Winter Park, Pensacola, the dozens of Apalachicola, how they handle, posts in the sidewalk. Potentially, you need a little footer, and so you could hit a utility. I'm sure that's happened before in another city. I'm sure they've navigated that process, and we all want a beautiful Harrison Avenue, but I want one that, has the same opportunities that other historic districts have.
It doesn't look the same.
Yeah.
Are we suggesting that utility lines are in the sidewalks or they're on the perimeter of the road?
There's some water lines. I mean, everyone's got a water line that runs out, and potentially a cable line.
So
Connection line.
phase one from the marina to 4 Points Plaza, both the water and the sewer lines are on the side. As well as the soil cell systems.
Like where you're parking on the side?
No, over the other sidewalks.
Okay.
And then phase two, we stuck with the main sewer line that was in the middle, so just new laterals ran out from the businesses, but the water lines are on the perimeters of phase two as well. And so now on phase two, from 4th to 6th, we eliminated the soil cell system, but we still have the soil cells in there. And so again, I think the genesis was, just trying to keep that pedestrian area clean, and the guys got to get in there to potentially work on it. Our hope is that we go 30 or 40 years without any real issues with the utilities, but that's not a reasonable assumption. We're going to have challenges, and so I'm just keeping both the pedestrian and the accoutrement area open as possible from any type of columns or beams. What's the purpose of this?
So can I ask a question? Would it be amenable to discussing perhaps implementing a process for permanent structures versus temporary structures? Why I'm thinking through this, obviously if somebody's building a balcony, it's adding to an amenity that's downtown. It's a substantial amount of investment. That's not a small piece. That's got structural drawings. It's got all sorts of other stuff. But somebody that goes down and, purchases an awning, from I'm just going to use Sam's Clubs as an example. I don't know that really meets the criteria that you're talking about. So I don't know how to word that in that, but I kind of understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
But I also understand, obviously, we don't need to put, footers over water lines.
I agree.
I will say we're putting a balcony on the Tennessee House, wraparound balcony right there at 4 Points Plaza. So
very cool.
Being built that way.
Yeah.
Different.
It's not going to have columns though.
But
I do love a column.
I think, are we thinking in terms of we don't want from the main entrance of the building, and you're going to make this long covered area out to the road? Is that what we're trying to, what are you trying to stop?
We're trying to stop out in the sidewalk area,
Right.
big like columns that are going to support some type of balcony. Cantilever, the building itself holds it out from an engineering. I don't know how it works, but I'm told it works.
Is there,
So-
is there a point where, I mean, I'll use Trico, for example. You got that sunk in place, but let's just say we're at the front of the building there, there's that circle. If he came out 2 feet, 3 feet and put posts down, you're saying he could be hitting utility lines, but that's really where the sidewalk kind of begins and ends, if you will. 'Cause what are we trying to avoid there? Rather than having just the shed roof versus going out how far or at all?
So are you talking about doing an actual balcony, or you're talking about just like? Okay, so, I mean, those 4x4s or 6x6s would probably just be surface mounted because it's not structural. But if you're doing a legit balcony, I mean, you're going to have to do, like, that's going to have to go into the ground, and there's going to have to be footers, and that's the concern is you've got water lines, sewer lines.
Right.
You've got the soil cell system on phase one. You've got, and they just kind of get in the way. I mean, right, it's already kind of tight in some areas right now as well, where people have added plants and, the cafe dining and all
Really,
that.
it's an ordinance about going into using posts that go that far, not posts that are just surface level. We're not talking about cantilevered versus flat.
I'll give you more background. 2019 or 20, me and Tim Whaler, my partner in history class, he's a city planner, pushed the city to have it's a gallery, or that's what it's called. So anything that comes over it's in the right of way, it's a gallery. And we copied Pensacola's DPZ ordinance, I want to say. DPZ is a city planning group that his name's Andres Dewani. He designed Seaside. And so I believe we just copied them. And so I don't know why there's all kinds of rules about you can't put an awning like on the curb because you don't want trucks running into it. We have trees and planter boxes. That's not really an option. And ADA requires you to have a pathway where you can navigate with a wheelchair or 2 wheelchairs. That's all in there. Florida building code, you can't put a balcony 4 feet above the sidewalk where everyone has to, shuffle in. There's provisions for that. But when you type in Main Street, USA, what it shows you is the spaces that have these balconies and galleries. That's when you have little hanging baskets of flowers and signs. And so what I don't want to do is punish someone who's just doing a little cloth awning that's cantilevered in a process, but I want to see more balconies. That's provides shade, it makes you feel cozy, and I personally, as a citizen, advocated for that 4 years ago.
So you're asking, instead of what I interpret the ordinance to be right now is a mechanism to stopping that, you're asking for an ordinance that
to allow it
with some type of parameters with it.
100%. Under this, the awning at history class previously wouldn't have been allowed.
But you still had to go through permitting for that.
100%.
So, I don't think that there's any way that somebody could just go build an awning or a balcony because it's in the right of way, or it's in city property at this point.
Under this ordinance, you wouldn't be able to do that.
So,
yeah, it wants everything to be cantilevered, which works really well for cloth, style awnings that you'd see in the 80s and 90s. But if you want to see anything from Apalachicola, and there's 24 examples of Apalachicola of this. And so that's why and I know it's a little bit of a pain to make sure we're not going to hit a gas line and someone's going to hit a water line at some point, but I think it's worthy of the effort. And it's, quintessential Main Street of what you see,
Agreed.
So.
Yeah, and happy to look out to Apalachicola. I mean, my big questions would be, what is the material of the road and where are their utilities? If they're like, utilities are in the sidewalks and it's a pain in the butt to work around, and then if Apalachicola can do it, we can do it too. But they may come back and be, the only reason we allowed this is because all of our utilities are out in the road and it's just asphalt. So it's easy to, it's not a big deal.
That's an engineering.
We'll look into it. Yeah, we'll look into it.
Question.
So the action needed is just to table this because it's going back for review. If that's the case, I move to table.
And I would just say table it indefinitely. Let's not set a time to bring it back.
Indefinitely.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Call the roll.
Commissioner Street?
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes?
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas?
Yes.
Mayor Branch?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second.
Call the roll.
Commissioner Street?
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes? Commissioner Lucas?
Heck yeah.
Mayor Branch?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
I blame Jonathan Hayes for the 4-hour meeting.